Welcome to those coming in. Let's see if we can get some people up on panel this live stream. Hopefully some of you would be interested in doing that. The topic should be one that probably interests most people, peacemaking. So I want to start off with Yusuf Cat Stevens, where he discovered his place of peace. And I think it's fair to say that peace begins with both you and me. But it begins within our hearts and minds. It's an inside job. The greatest peace we'll ever know really is found within our soul. So we'll start off with Cat Stevens.
Hi everyone, I'm Yusuf Cat Stevens. I once wrote a song called Peace Train, and now they've made it into a little picture book. And I'm going to sing that for you now. And if you know the tune, if you know the words, you can sing along. Now I've been happy lately, thinking about the good things to come. And I believe it could be something good has begun. Oh, I've been smiling lately, dreaming about the world as one. And I believe it could be someday it's gonna come. 'Cause out on the edge of darkness there rides the peace train. Oh, peace train, take this country, come take me home again. Now I've been smiling lately, thinking about the good things to come. And I believe it could be something good has begun. Oh, peace train sounding louder, glide on the peace train. Ooh, come on, peace train. Oh, peace train, holy roller, everyone jump upon the peace train. Ooh, come on, peace train. Now get your bags together, go bring your good friends too, 'cause it's getting nearer, it soon will be with you. Now come and join the living, it's not so far from you. And it's getting nearer, soon it will all be true. Oh, peace train sounding louder, glide on the peace train. Ooh, come on, peace train. Now I've been crying lately, thinking about the world as it is. Why must we go on hating? Why can't we live in bliss? 'Cause out on the edge of darkness there rides the peace train. Oh, peace train, take this country, come take me home again. Peace train. Ooh-ah, ee-ah, ooh-ah. Come on, the peace train.
So welcome to folks that are just now coming in. Cat Stevens, I thought, would be a good individual and a good musical artist to really begin this peacemaking presentation over. We have to find it within ourselves. I think he's found it. I think we're all searching for it. There's a line in a movie. I'm going to bring up a picture of it here. This came out in 1972, a movie I really enjoyed, a police movie called The New Centurions, and George C. Scott was in it, and Stacy Keach. They were on the street a lot, and they really seemed to love the job that they had. At one point, they were arresting, I don't want to use words that aren't quite as sensitive as they might be, but sidewalk hostesses, so let's put it that way. And one of them asked Stacy Keach if he has soul. And Stacy Keach says, I have more soul than I can control, which I think said a great deal. The soul is the place. Angela, welcome to you. Good to see you. I'm glad you're here. The soul that is a gift from God that each human being has, in my opinion. I can't prove that to you. It's a matter of faith. But in this movie, The New Centurions, which is a pretty old movie, they spoke of soul. And it has to do, I would say, with the important and innermost part of the human condition. Really, that gift from God that gives us the ability to love in a very profound way, and that can change lives and change hearts and certainly change us and bring about peace. It's all an inside job. So now you all know me. I can be brash and obnoxious, and sometimes you know me to be aloof, right? Sometimes I'm nostalgic and sentimental, or I might be confident and witty, but a lot of the time I'm angry and bitter and I'm resentful and I'm probably mean-spirited. I hope I'm not all those things, but those are my good points, and they don't end there. I have many more, as so many of us do. But regardless of what baggage we're carrying, and I want to be completely serious with you, we have available to us a power inside us, within our soul, that's so immovable, so unstoppable, so profoundly life-giving and life-changing, that if we choose to open ourselves up to it, and it's found within our soul, we all have that. And what we'll find there, if we choose to look, is the presence of the sacred and the holy. That's exactly what you want on your side when you're battling life's battles, right? The most powerful force on earth, which is the sacred and holy, and which ironically indwells within us, according to St. John. And we just have to open ourselves up to that source and let it change us, and we can find peace and we can find happiness. In weakness, we find strength. So when we're weak, we turn to that source within our soul. And if we do that, if we dare to do that, to look inside ourselves and open ourselves up to the power within our soul, which we all have, it will change our life, improve our life, and we can probably begin to find peace like we've never known it before. And actually, it's interesting because the world doesn't have to change. A lot of times we live our life thinking, if I could just change that one person, if I make them go away, or if I make them be a better human being, then I'll be happy. No, it doesn't work that way. We have to change. Within that sacred place is where it will happen, right? And that's where that sacred voice is speaking to us day in, day out, if we will listen. The source of our happiness. It's a safe place, a powerful place. And it's been there all along. So anyway, welcome to you, Angela and Angelo. If I could be called Andy, we'd all start with A there, our names. But I did want to mention that many people have found peace and happiness outside. Well, they think that's where it's found, outside of themselves. In places like Wall Street, Madison Avenue, right? Hollywood, fashion magazines. Maybe you think if you have a financially dominant portfolio or a down payment on a yacht. No, not found there. The world tells us it's found there, but we don't have to search outside ourselves for peace. It's an inside job. Ironically, the same can be said about war and violence, and this is very important, okay, what I'm about to say. Please hear this, about hatred and internal. There's no person on earth who's going to go and wage a war or fight against someone on social media. Let's go fight with someone. There's no person on earth who does that, who isn't, before the war begins, before the fighting begins, that they're not already at war within themselves. They're struggling to find peace, where all people have known bitterness and disappointment in life. But if we want peace, we can find it. And that's the place we have to look, within ourselves. And we must be at peace. It's not a way, a destination. It's actually a way of peace. It's a way of life that we have to be peaceful. So, and it's also really a process and something that we can learn and get better at as time goes on and we get older. But I have a question for you, for Angelo and Angela, or anyone else who might be listening. What would you say, and feel free to type it in the side chat, is your greatest gift that you've made to the world? What contribution would you say you're proud of that you've made to society, to your local neighborhood? Maybe it's to your family, to your church, whatever it might be. What would you say is one of the greatest gifts that you've made? And then if you are comfortable, write that in side chat. A lot of people would point to, academic achievement, right? I went to college. Oh, okay. Or financial success. Or perhaps, they're artistic or they're musical. And I mean, these are great gifts anyway. They are. Many people would probably point to their children and say that's the greatest contribution that they've ever made to life itself. I remember one time a story just came to me, and I think this was told by the Texas oilman, H. Ross Perot. I think he told this. He said There were um, two traveling desert, what would you call it, with the groups of people. And with camels, they had camels, and the desert's a very foreboding place. And they met up, these two coming in different directions, they met up at an oasis. And at the oasis, it kind of mingled a little bit. One of the traveling group was very affluent. You could tell by how they were dressed and everything and what they were wearing. And the other group was rather impoverished, or at least much more lower middle class, probably. And they began talking, and one woman looked at the other woman from the caravan and said, because she was wearing pearls, and she said, "Where are your pearls?" Imagine saying something like that, "Where are your pearls?" And the woman looked at her, and then she looked down at her children, and she took their hands in each hand. She said, "These are my pearls." And she held them up, her children's hands. "These are my pearls." And you know, it's a wonderful story to illustrate what the real value in life is, where peace comes from, where happiness arrives at, you know, and it certainly doesn't come from wealth. So, Janie, welcome to you. It's good to see you. I'm glad you're here. So I did want to share that story. That was one I heard from H. Ross Perot many years ago. It just popped into my head, and I thought if I could remember the basic parts of it, it might be worth telling. Um, So we're looking at peacemaking. Being at peace is an inside job. It starts with you and I. And then I'm going to bring people up on panel if they'd like to and share, you share with others perhaps how you feel about finding peace, being at peace. What is your contribution? What have you felt has been the greatest gift that you've been given by God, perhaps? And how have you given it back to society or to your family? Your church, your neighborhood, whatever it may be. So we tried to make it clear that it's not Wall Street, Madison Avenue, or Hollywood, or anything like that, but it's something that goes on inside of ourselves where we value life in a different way. I want to just show you someone who I studied when I was in seminary. His name is St. John of the Cross. I'll bring up an image for him. And this is St. John of the Cross. He lived in the 16th century. And he said, I'll quote him, "You're close to God when you're burdened, when something is difficult, when you're struggling." And oftentimes when the apostles were in need, they looked for Jesus and they couldn't find him. And they said, well, someone knew. And he said, he's always among the poor and the suffering. The ones who seek him out, you know, would be generally the people who need him. And that's where he would be found. So St. John of the Cross is simply trying to say to us, as illustrates in that writing, when you are burdened in life, you're close to God. Jesus is seeking you out, his spirit. When your strength, you know, is gone, but if you have strength, you know, your strength also abides with the afflicted. That's where he is found. But when you, on the other hand now, when you're relieved of the burden, when you're close to yourself, you are your own weakness. I hope that makes sense to you. I think it's pretty well put from a 16th century mystic, Carmelite mystic. When you're burdened, you're close to God, but when you're relieved of the burden, you're not. Because we need, in a sense, to keep reminding ourselves of how important it is to turn to God for all of our needs. And that, in fact, we are not the answer and source of our needs, but God is. And that is putting the first commandment front and center. He is the Lord thy God, and we are not. It was said to St. Catherine of Siena, another 15th century mystic, I am he who is Catherine, and you are she who is not. So when we have life's burdens, remember who can relieve them, and that we cannot become our own God and source of relief, but we have to turn to the one who truly does bring joy and happiness, and that would not be the world and all of the things that captivate us. And the world has a very powerful, very profound message, very strong message, very compelling message. We can't forget that. Do you think that's true, Janie? I certainly do. I think it's very important to keep that in mind. Many people, I've done it myself. We played the lottery, right? They come back on camera here. And we think, well, I'm just 2 or 3 or 6 numbers away from winning it all. As if, what am I going to do when I win? And will that bring me happiness? I knew someone who won up here in the Pacific Northwest. And, I didn't know them at the time when they won, but I was told all about what happened in their life. And unfortunately, it wasn't good. Um, as I say, I think that the real happiness in life, I mean, after all, we look at the Billionaire Club, right? We have hundreds of billionaires in the United States, or maybe a couple of thousand by now, many, many millionaires. And yet they never seem satisfied with life. They're not truly at ease and happy and at peace. So that's what today's topic is about. I just wanted to share with you. St. John of the Cross had something else to say, and I'll bring it up right here. He had something to say about a flower. He said, a flower at its deepest center, if you look at it on the right there, the white flower, his most profound contribution, many people would say, would be its beautiful blossom, right? Beautiful bloom. But John of the Cross said, no, it's the greatest achievement the flower gives is the seed when it dies, as you can see on the left side. Now, that wouldn't be the same seed. It's too big, but I wanted to make sure that was clear. The beauty that we give off in life is not always our greatest gift, but the beauty that we leave behind most certainly can be. And that, according to John of the Cross, is our deepest center and ultimate achievement. It kind of resonates with what Jesus had to say. Truly, truly, I say to you, unless a grain of wheat falls to the ground and dies, it abides alone. But if it dies, it bears much fruit. That's the 12th chapter of John. So I think it was that Phil has listened to preachers. Well, it depends on if Phil himself, as you, Gladys, or myself, any one of us really, are listening through the lens of what is sacred and holy within our soul. And then anything good, the gospel can come from Phil, from you, Gladys. The gospel can come through Janie. It can come from every human being you can think of. And that's why it's good news, because that good news is actually indwelling within us. And so I think it's important that we keep that in mind. I'm not here, Gladys, and I would prefer that you not begin to attack someone, to critique someone. I'd rather hear you say something good about Phil. That's what I'd like to hear you say. If I would prefer to say to you, I don't want to criticize you. I want to say something good about you, Gladys. The way to peace doesn't begin with warfare. That's the whole point of today. Okay? Just wanted to point that out. All right. So, like a flower or like a grain of wheat. I want to point out something else. If you notice that what you're looking at there, truly, truly, who says things like that? Who says things twice? Well, Jesus did a couple of times. He said, amen, amen, I tell you. Or truly, truly, I say to you. Or solemnly, I say. When there's a double intonation, when things are said twice, that's a big clue, right? That he's trying to say, if you're going to listen to anything I have to say, you better listen here. This is real important. Unless we can die to self-aggrandizement, ego, resentment, Gladys, right? Anger, Janie, any sort of, bitterness, Stellar, that we might hold, Angela, anything that's standing, Angelo as well, we're standing in the way of the kingdom. This is very important. It will remain standing in the way of the kingdom and our personal happiness and peace until we can remove it. We have to let that part of ourselves die. Okay? That's critical. That's why he says it twice. Truly, truly, I say to you. Right? You ask yourself, maybe when did Jesus produce fruit in the world? Well, it wasn't when he walked on water or when he performed miracles and people were like in awe of him. You'd think it would be then, right? Or when his popularity was at the highest point. No, it was none of those. He said, and we should remember this one very important thing. I'll bring it up here. At the end of his life, when the seed was dropped, he said, it's done. It's finished. That's in the Greek. If you read the New Testament in Greek, I had to read the Gospel of John in Greek. Tetelestai. Tetelestai. I got to get that right. Or teleos, which is another Greek word for it's over, fulfillment, it's done. It's like when the artist puts down their art brush, their paintbrush. The painting is finished. And Jesus at the end of his life said it's finished. Similar to that flower dying, giving off its seed. And it's really appropriate. Well, I know Crazy Train is out there, but there's also a good train, the peace train, that we just heard from our friend Cat Stevens, Yusuf Stevens. I think that's very important, that we can jump on board Crazy Train or Peace Train. That's actually a good analogy, I suppose. But we decide that, don't we? One's going to end up in a terrible crash, and one's going to make it through to a life of fulfillment and peace. At least that is what we would all hope for. So on the cross, I'm just saying, I'll finish this up real quick and invite people up on panel. The last word of Jesus, the final death of sacrifice, was his entire body, his life. His whole life was full of sacrifice. He was always giving to others. And that's what he challenges us to do. If you read John's gospel, it says the greatest act of love is to lay down your life for another. That's in John chapter 15. Right? That's what's really, really important. Never forget that. The very first time that you show compassion or forgiveness or mercy or tenderness or just kindness to someone, that's huge. That's groundbreaking. It can mean the difference between someone maybe ending their life even, or maybe going off on someone else. People are close to the edge on Crazy Train, as Gladys, you're saying. And our adversaries, they're the ones especially that need us to be compassionate, right? It's easy to be critical. It's easy to hang on to anger and resentment. But we have to die to that type of self, to the one who wants to give back to the world. And we have to overcome our pettiness. It's not easy to do. But those are the seeds we give off in the world. I was noticing that in our politics in the United States that the word empathy has gotten a bad rap. I don't know, did you guys pick up on that? Empathy or compassion. Those are some of the most ultimate expressions of love in the gospel. And empathy has been given like we're being too soft-hearted, right? Well, I'll give you examples of when we were let me take this off the screen. Remember, FDR did the New Deal after the Depression. That was compassionate. That was empathetic. Yeah, even George Bush, September 11th, at Ground Zero, caring for those who died in a tragic attack on our country. When Barack Obama gave the poor especially the Affordable Care Act, those are examples of empathy and compassion for the people. Not for the 1% billionaire, for the people. The 1%, the billionaires, really don't need any help with health care. They have the best health care money can buy. But many millions of others most certainly do. Janie says, strength of character, strength of spirit, strength of heart. Yeah, and it was translated to weakness, empathy and compassion. Yeah, I think that the hardest things in the world to do is to live with empathy when you feel like getting angry. When you want to lash out, instead you offer a word of kindness and reconciliation. It's not easy. There's nothing more difficult that I've ever found than to be able to say, I'm sorry, I was wrong, I care about you, to ask for forgiveness and to offer forgiveness. That's part of empathy and compassion. Compassion literally is two words, com, meaning with, and passion, which means to suffer with others. When you care enough that you would weep with them, cry with them, hold their hand, be with them when they're hurting, that's compassion. That was the entirety of the life of Jesus, which we're called to do. Now, we're not able to do that on our own. Don't kid yourself. We're able to do that and find success spiritually when we look inward to the strength of the source that gives us the ability to do all of those very difficult, challenging things. Right? So, blessed are the peacemakers. That's what I wanted to share with you today. This is this is the Beatitudes. There's 8 of them in Matthew's Gospel. It is much easier to be callous, isn't it, Janie? Turn our eyes and to turn away. And we hear the bitterness in people's voices, people that do online social media, and even here on YouTube live streaming. Bitterness is there all the time. And sometimes it's not hidden. It's not subtle. It's right out there in your face, as intended to sometimes be used as payback, like a justification. We used to call it lex talionis, right? An eye for an eye. You do to me, I'll do back to you 10 times worse. Well, that's not following the gospel. And that's not what brings about peace. We have to rise above that. You know, I'll put it in my own words. Amen, amen, I say to you, don't fall for the shallow pursuit of fame, fortune, and power over other people and getting even. Revenge tours, for as is happening in politics. Instead of that, discover your deepest center, your ultimate gift, right? And that's offering your life to those who would receive it and receive some kind of good benefit from it. So the Beatitudes really are the 8 steps, like the rungs of a ladder. You have to start with the first rung. You can't jump to the top one. The first rung of the ladder is the poor in spirit, right? Followed by blessed are those who mourn. The poor in spirit, I'm going to bring up a little, you're going to get a little bit of Koine Greek here, all right? I think, if I can find the right one here for you. Okay, here we are. The poor in spirit. In Hebrew, this is the New Testament, so in Koine Greek in the New Testament, you can see the Koine Greek word there right after number 1, but we always transliterate that because that's not in the alphabet that we use. So the transliteration for that word is actually pronounced, if I can get the right pronunciation for it, tostos. Now, I've heard it pronounced a dozen different ways, but I'm going to give it to you the way that I understand it. So tostos, what that said, the P is silent. It means the poor, the destitute. It's a tin cup ringing poor. There's nobody poorer than the tostos. That would be the poor that Jesus talked about all the time. And in the Beatitudes, blessed are those who are poor. He also added poor in spirit. If you look at Luke's gospel, it says, blessed are the poor, period. It doesn't say spirit. And there's a reason for that. But it implies a deep poverty, as you can see there. But not just physical poverty, spiritual poverty, which is far worse, really. Much, much worse than spiritual poverty. So anyway, I wanted to share a little bit of that. I have a lot more, but I don't want to, like I usually am. I'm a talking head. And I actually have some jokes. I have some jokes I want to share with you. Because I talked to a very dear friend today who gave me some really good advice that I need to lighten things up a little bit. Right? And that is so true, you know. And I want to share with you a video about a dog, because I think a lot of times being authentic and being real and being a peacemaker, being a person of joy is challenging, and we're afraid. Fear is what stands in the way. So maybe I'll start off with that. And this is a video about a true story. Now, I researched the hell out of this. I researched this all over the place to make sure it was an authentic story, and it is. It happened in Paris, France. So here you have it.
The man hugging this dog so tightly was a homeless man living on the streets in France. He was not the dog's owner, but the first time this dog met him, something just clicked. From then on, the dog wanted to see him every single day. He would run to the man's tent, and if the man was not there, he would wait for him to come back. And the man walking the dog beside him, that was the real owner. One day during a walk, the dog suddenly stopped in front of the homeless man and refused to leave. At first, the owner did not want his dog getting too close, but then the dog turned and looked at him, almost like he was asking for permission. The homeless man smiled with such warmth that the owner gave in. That moment changed everything. From then on, the owner took the same route every day, and every day the dog rushed over to give his new friend a huge hug. The way he greeted him, you would think they had been separated for years. Slowly, the owner and the homeless man became friends too. Every morning, the owner brought him coffee and bread. So each day, the man had 3 gifts: coffee, bread, and the dog's hug. The owner posted their videos on TikTok, and millions of people fell in love with their bond. Wanting to help even more, he started a fundraiser and raised 5,800 euros for his friend. When he shared the news, the man could barely believe it. 2 months later, he was no longer sleeping on the street. He had his own apartment and a new job. But every Friday morning, he still came back to see the dog. That is what makes this story so beautiful. No money, no status, no background mattered here. What pulled them together was simple. Kindness recognizes kindness, and dogs always seem to know it first.
Now, I thought that was a very profound story. A lot of times, the very best of humanity is found inside of us, but we're afraid to show it. It's resonating in our soul. It may take a long time. It might maybe take years to peel away the walls of fear that prevent us from reaching out to each other, or prejudice, and that fragile ego. What happens if I'm rejected by someone? And maybe I reach out and they turn away. Oh no, a fate worse than death. And it hurts greatly. We learned that very early in life. But this is what is our true identity as a human being. When we discover our true self, it happens within our soul. It's our essence and purpose within our soul that make it very clear to us that everyone counts. There's no rejects in God's kingdom. There's none. Even the people you don't like and you like the least, they're part of your sister and brother. They're part of who you are. They're part of the kingdom of God, and our strength lies in our weakness. It's okay if you don't feel like being nice, but let the Spirit guide you in that path anyway, right? We feel weak. We don't feel capable of doing it. But if we have a little bit of humility, we can make it happen with the help of God's Spirit. So Angela or Janie says it's not AI. I saw it several years ago. Yeah, it's not AI at all. Yeah, I've seen so much of that. And what a disappointment, Janie, isn't it, when you see a beautiful story and it turns out it's not, it didn't happen. Well, maybe there's some value in that anyway, because it does tug at the heartstrings of humanity. So I think it's very, very important. Are you Amy? Yeah, no, it's not AI, Gladys. I don't know if you're asking me that or Janie. If you're asking me, no, I'm not. That's that person who repeats Amy a bunch of times after their name. No, I'm not. I'm not that person. No. So we are afraid of rejection. I know that I am. I'm afraid of rejection. I'm afraid that if I open up, someone will say, F off, get lost, take it down the road, can't stand you, don't like you, will never, never open myself up to you. And that is what people do, unfortunately. It's sad. It is sad. So anyway, I do want to bring people up. What I'm talking about is not turning deeply within yourself and relying upon your own strength, because you and I don't have the strength of what it takes. We do have access and availability of that strength, and that's from on high. And it's inside of us. We don't have to go out into outer space to find it. It's in inner space within our soul. That is what I have come to believe. It's what I've come to experience. And I certainly hope that you have as well. That's very important. It's what I would call taking it to the limit. One of my favorite groups of all time.
Take it to the limit. Take it to the limit. Take it to the limit. One more time.
Okay, there he is, Randy Meisner in all his glory. God rest his soul. the soul. That's what the Eagles group said, that Randy was the soul of their group. They fought, but a voice like none other. But I think taking it to the limit is a good way of expressing what we're really looking at when we look within ourselves, within our own soul. That was a bit loud, wasn't it? Yeah, Randy crossed the country. He did. He was very. He grew up in Scottsbluff, Nebraska. I'm from Nebraska. That's why I was so interested in learning what I could about him. That song came out in '75, but that particular, I didn't show the video, but it was from 1977. He was very shy, and he didn't like singing that song, even though he wrote it, and that was the song he was known for. The high notes at the very end, he used to talk about. He said he could hit him in the studio, but when he was in a live concert, sometimes he didn't always hit him, and he didn't want to sing the song, and he got into arguments with other band members because of it. But in that concert in '77, he hit them beautifully, and for a very long period of time, he held that note. Let's see. Angela says, or Janie says, she was his favorite Eagle. Oh, your mom. Yeah, he was amazing. He didn't want to travel on the road. Like, they were at the peak of success, and he wanted to go home and be with his family. Is what the stories that are told about him. But the tension was, they were at the height of success, and the show must go on. But eventually he left the Eagles and did some things on his own. I forget, I'm trying to remember some of the artists he worked with. But what a powerful, unique talent. Well, the whole group is. I've always enjoyed the Eagles. Yeah. So we have to take it to the limit, right? the limit within the human condition, and we do have limits, right? We have just so much we can do. And then we turn to that which there are no limits, and that's the gift of the Holy Spirit that indwells within our soul. St. John talks about that over and over and over and over again in the Gospel of John. He talks about the indwelling Holy Spirit. Within each one of us is a source of our ultimate power and strength. But how few people turn to it, and what a tragedy that is. If you're struggling in life, that's where, like I said before, when the apostles couldn't find Jesus, where did he go? Somebody finally wised up and said, well, he's with the poor. He's with those suffering and struggling. That's where he's found. So if you have struggle and you have sadness and you have problems in your life, turn to him, and he will find you. In your weakness, you will find his strength. That's the whole point. If we walk away with that, we've gotten the whole point. We've gotten the whole point. Okay, so I wanted to show you that a dog in Montreal and how important it is. Sometimes one of our furry friends will help us to overcome our fear of rejection, usually, or being seen as silly. When we reach out, I had videos that I found that show people just out of the blue on the street, walking down the street, a busy street, and they open their arms up and they go, let me hug you. And most people are like, what the heck is wrong with you? Then once in a blue moon, somebody says, okay, and they let this person hug them. And these, I'm not saying these were unattractive people at all, but we're not used to being loved so openly. And yet, that's what's wrong with this world. It's no wonder loneliness is such a profound factor within the human condition. Such a big, big problem for us. Yeah, let me send you a link, Janie. Let me bring one up right now. Just takes me a second here. Video call. Nobody has to be on video. Okay, I've got a link for you. Anybody else who wants to come up, ask me for another link, because they're all different. It's not like, what is it called? StreamYards. StreamYards, one link is for everybody. This link is an individual link for Janie, no one else. But if you want to come up on panel, I'll send you a link as well. Okay, so there's Janie's link. Nobody is on camera except myself. If you want to be, You don't have to be, but if you want to be, I can make that happen. But I don't generally, and most people don't want to come up on camera, and that's a understandable choice. So there's no need to do that. Let me make sure I have the audio turned on for Janie. 1 second here. Okay, I think, Janie, are you there?
Am I?
Yes, hi.
Hi. Okay, give me 1 second. I need to clear my throat.
Okay, I'll put your icon up if that's okay with you.
Yeah,
Let's
that's fine
see.
by me.
All right, here we are. Okay, we have you up. At least I think we do. Oh, wait a minute. I don't have something set here. Hold on 1 second. Oh dear. Okay. I think I have to refresh this as usual. Oh, wait a minute. Da, 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 da. Telestrator. Okay, I think,
Hi,
are you there?
I'm there.
Excellent.
So I've
Well,
been taking
hi.
notes. You've been talking. Hello.
Great to
I've been
see you.
taking notes so I wouldn't forget because that
Oh,
is my
good.
biggest thing is I forget what I want to say by the time I get to say it. So
Yep.
the first thing I want to say is how much I have missed Sundays with you.
Oh,
And I could have typed that in the side chat, but I wanted to actually say it to you because
well, thank
I
you.
have seriously missed my Sunday spiritual refill with you, where I fill myself back up for the week ahead. So I'm so glad to see you back doing this.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
You're welcome. The second thing I wanted to say, which was brought about by what you were just saying about how people find turn to God in their hard times and all that. I find that to be especially true. And then that brings me to the third thing that I was taking notes about is that the St. John of the Cross saying that you had put up. If you want to put it back up again, you can, but you don't have to.
Okay.
Um, there are I that really resonates with me because it reminds me of all the times when I've heard people shaming someone um, or having a poke at someone because they say things to them like, when times are hard, it's funny how you always find God. And then when times get better, he's nowhere around in your life. You stop going to church, you stop reading the Bible, whatever they did that made them think, and the biggest one being is that we hear people kind of make snide remarks a lot about people who are in jail or prison and they say, Jesus sure does hang out in jail a lot. Everyone finds Jesus when they're in jail. And some of that is true. There are some people who use that as a manipulation to like get uh, their time shortened or to get out or whatever when they come up for their parole hearings. But what we know about it is that yes, Jesus actually hung out with the criminals and the prostitutes and the imprisoned and all of those things and so wouldn't it be normal that people who are in prison or jail find Jesus? But here's the thing. Yeah, if you're doing it as a manipulation or whatever, I suppose there's some truth in that. But what I wrote down here is that when we're in hard times, we're humbled. And especially you would have to think that when you're in jail or prison, you're going to be humbled because everything pretty much has been taken away from you. Now, there are some people who thrive in a prison atmosphere because it's contained and they have plenty of commissary money and they're running their little shop or their business in there or whatever. But for the most part, someone like you or I, if we were to go to prison, we've lost everything in our lives, right? We've lost our home, we've lost our car, we've lost our rights to some things, such as voting and things like that. We've lost, we're separated from our families. We don't get to wear what we want. We can't go shopping, all these things. So we really are humbled. It's a humbling experience when you come upon hard times. And I'm just using prison as an example. And but that a lot of times is the catalyst that brings people to God, that hard times and that humbleness that they're brought to. Um, because really, who can help you? There's no one who can help you. Maybe you could write to your governor and he could get you out or something. But for the most part, a lot of people do find that the last person, the last resort they can turn to is God, right? When he should have been the first. But because that's not been their norm, they turn to God as their last thing. And it's true humbling that brings you to that. And that then when things are good again, they forget that humility and believe that they accomplished the good themselves. They find all these things that they did where they made the difference actually, and they don't give it to God anymore. So I think the thing is to find the balance between that, in that when you're humbled and you're brought to God and you find yourself brought to God and you turn it over to Him, and then things get better. We have to figure out how to how to get people to understand that they have to continue with the humility through the good times too, and not take the credit for things being good again now themselves and quit seeking God.
Absolutely.
So I'm sorry, that was a whole lot to say
No, good.
about
Very good.
the thing you put up there, but I just found it that I found it odd that people want to shame people for finding God only in their tough times.
Yeah.
But that is actually a legitimate catalyst in finding your spirituality or God or Jesus or whatever it is. But what doesn't seem to take is the humility in that, and that when things are good again, they become self focused again, where they say, "Well, I did that. I made the changes." Well, physically, yes, you made the changes, but those changes came through God or, whoever.
Right. I put that up again that you mentioned. It was St. John of the Cross. When you're burdened, you're close to God. When you're relieved of the burden, you're close to yourself.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. So when you're burdened, everyone finds God, but then when they're relieved of those burdens, they get back into the selfishness of I did it. They're close to themselves again. And their
Exactly.
weakness, which in the beginning and the end, their weakness was that they weren't humble. They weren't showing humility.
Yeah, and ironically, humility among the Beatitudes is one of the very first steps, the second one. Blessed are the meek, meek and humble. Um, because humility, everything seems to rest on it. If we're not humble, we don't need anybody, and we certainly don't need God. We become our own God. And people don't realize that is where you break the first commandment. I am the Lord thy God, not you, not you, Stellar.
Right. So I know that I just went on and on and on, but like I said, I was taking notes and I wanted to cover it all before I forgot it,
Oh,
because
I'm glad you did.
my short-term memory is terrible.
Yeah, that's two of us.
But I
But
think about all the times when, say, I've been having difficulties in some area of my life, and then I come through it, right? And I break. I can see the light at the end of the tunnel. I break out of it, and what's the first thing I do? I pat myself on the back and I say, "I worked really hard, and look what I accomplished." And I
right,
forget that at the beginning of it, that I was literally, falling on my knees saying, "Please help me. Give me the strength. Give me the patience. Give me the compassion," whatever it was I needed to get through it. And how quickly I forgot that. And immediately I'm patting myself on the back, telling myself how hard I worked. Well, yes, to some extent, I did work very hard through whatever it was, but it was only through the grace that was shown to me and the strength or whatever it was that I had prayed for to help me through it.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, and if we take this the next step, ultimately our life is a gift, and that gift will be returned. There was a French philosopher, and I can never remember his name, but he said, when our life is over, every one of us are in the same situation. When our life is done, the only thing we take with us is just so many good deeds we can hold in our hand. What have we done with our life? You know, what have we done? And
Right.
beyond that, any acquisition or positioning financially, those are the things that will torment us, and probably the things that brought us the least amount of happiness. The more you have, the more what people would tend to want to protect. But when you let go of everything, a lot of people on the street say that. I have nothing, but I don't have the worries that the people who have everything seem to have in their life. So in the middle, it's not Jesus isn't advocating abject poverty. Uh, Tostos, the whole idea of blessed are the poor.
Yeah.
But there's a difference between a rich young man coming to Jesus, call him Bill Gates, Mark Zuckerberg, whoever you want, and he's very wealthy. And Jesus says to him, and he does, says to you and me, the only thing you need to do now is give everything you have away to the poor, and because it stands in the way, you're worshiping it. Give it to the poor, and then come and follow me, and you'll have treasure in heaven. You'll be blessed. You'll be happy. And your eternity is more important than your temporality. And he went away sad. You know, I think there's so much. We're in a generation that scrolls through devices. The thumbs are moving on the cell phone, looking at short videos and messages, and we're looking for answers. And the medium, social media, is not really the answer. It purports to have some answers. And the answer, I know, does not come from Mark Zuckerberg or Elon Musk or Bill Gates. It doesn't come from any of those sources, but it comes from a much more proven source. And that's a source that relies upon a relationship that we have with each other, and the ultimate source of that within, with faith in the God that sustains our life, but to which it will be returned at the end of our life. And we're just basically made by love. God is love. If you abide in God, you abide in him, and he abides in you. It doesn't get any simpler than that. That's our purpose for being alive. It's Love 101 is the name of the school on earth that we're in. And we have to slow down and listen. In the Old Testament, they call it a still small voice. Elijah listening to a still small gentle whisper, within our being. And everyone has that voice. Abraham Lincoln used to say, he said, the quote with Lincoln was, listen to the angel of your better nature. But because we have many voices, some scream at us, right? And others whisper very softly and gently. The better angel of your nature. That's where the Spirit of God is trying to communicate to us. So the first thing that I learned when I went into a religious community was silence. We had to be, when I took my first vows, I couldn't talk for 30 days. There was a 30-day retreat, and we weren't allowed to speak because we were told to listen. And we were in meditation and prayer. And, the language of heaven is silence. So we're supposed to be silent. And I can imagine God up in heaven saying, will you shut up, Stellar? When you're quiet, when you pipe down, you might hear me speak. And that's the truth. That's the source of within ourselves. If we just turn to that source, and that source is waiting to speak to us, especially when we're struggling.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Sometimes I think that's the only thing, much like what we're talking about. I think when we're struggling, that's the only thing that allows us to hear that small voice and to say, hey, maybe this is what I need. Maybe I need spirituality. Maybe my spirit needs some help here. So regardless of how you came to it. Um, the hard part is holding on to it when things do get better.
Just to add on to that beautiful thought that you had, how many times have you ever seen wonderful things happen that have came from above, from the powerful and the mighty and the wealthy? How many revolutions have, the French Revolution didn't happen that way. The American Revolution didn't happen that way. It came from the bottom up, from people. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, among the poor, blessed are the poor, the tohos, the impoverished. That's where Jesus is waiting to help us. The help is there, waiting. Don't expect a president or a billionaire to liberate you, because you don't seem to see the compassion in them, and neither do I. But the kind of love that comes from someone who cared tenderly for the poor and the hungry and the weeping and the excluded and the people like that, the poor can hardly afford a modest home, Janie. Jeff Bezos has 12 homes. 12! The top 1% billionaires own more than the entire middle class. And if I ever had the opportunity to meet Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk, I would say, I have a passage for you that will bless you in Scripture. And it's going to be hard to hear, but here it is. Woe to you who are rich. You are having your fill and consolation today.
Right. This is as good as it gets for them.
Amen. Big pharma and medicine and healthcare are hurting so many people, taking away the foundation that they're counting on. That's being removed. And in place of it, higher prices, inhumane prices for health. And many people can't afford it anymore. It was tough enough before. And all for profit. The system is sick. Woe to you who are full now, because one day you will be hungry.
Right. And where Angela asked, why does life have to be so hard for so many? I think maybe that's the point of it too.
Yeah.
I think the point of people having to suffer and everything is for those who are capable to hear that small voice
Right.
and to say, what is my part in this? What can I do? But like you said, the billionaires and the wealthy, they aren't hearing that voice.
No.
They've got so much going on. I imagine when you have 12 homes, you rarely have time to think about how you're going to help the person who doesn't have one home.
It would be rather distracting to have so much to juggle in their lives. Private islands and all kinds of acquisitions.
Right.
And sadly,
Maintenance, taxes, staff.
that's
You got a
right.
lot going on. You're not going to be able to hear that tiny voice inside of you that
No,
says, I have 12 homes, but there's someone out there who doesn't have a single one.
that's right. And the other tragedy is we shouldn't forget that every billionaire, without exception, in my personal belief, got there on the back of the poor
I
by
believe that.
paying, yes, wages that weren't fair. There was a story that came out of Amazon warehouses. We have a lot of them up here in Seattle because Amazon is home up here. Uh, a pregnant woman who was needed to sit down. They wouldn't allow her to sit down at the job. And another person who actually died on the assembly line. And the supervisor said, don't look, we'll take care of it. Keep going, keep working. How do you stop your humanity for the sake of profit? My God. Because they want to make sure that that delivery gets there in the time that an Amazon, what do they call it, Prime user expects it to get there the next day. So we can't stop for compassion. We can't stop for. I've often shared this in Amazon warehouses. They have rows of machines that you would think dispense pop and coffee and maybe a sandwich or cookies or something. But they have machines that dispense pain medication because you're doing repetitive injury things in Amazon. And people have to take pain medication, to be able to do their job at the rapidity that they're asking of them and at the wages which are not humane.
Right.
I mean, they can't even afford to get a cavity filled, for God's sake, because of how poor
Right.
they're. So the wealthy, are wealthy on the backs of the poor, and people who make decisions in high back leather chairs in corporate boardrooms are injuring the poor to an intolerable degree, and they will be called on. They will be called for that. There will be a day of reckoning.
Another example of how, since we're talking about Amazon, I'll just use them, of how Amazon has, and Jeff Bezos and all of them have become wealthy on the backs of the poor, is that they consume resources that are paid for by the poor,
That's right.
such as, how much did they get in tax breaks so that they don't have to pay local taxes where their warehouses are and all of that. Yet they're using those local roads way more than I am, and I've paid more taxes than they have for those
Yep.
roads, which I rarely get to use because gas is so high.
That's
So I
right.
mean, they're getting all the breaks so that they don't have to pay in to the system that makes it possible for them to have their money. The
Yeah.
teacher who's having to buy her own classroom supplies on a very limited income has paid more for the infrastructure of the area than they have. But they use it far more than she does. The wear and tear on those roads and maintaining them and the electrical grids and maintaining them and all of that. She's bared the burden on it in her taxes, but they get the use of it,
Right.
the resources.
Well, the playing field is uneven, terribly distorted. And what makes life even more frightening is that in order for happiness and peace to come, and that's our topic, uh, everyone has to recognize that we're in this together. We used to be able to stand under the flag and say, we're Americans, we love each other. That wasn't always entirely true. We didn't always love each other. But we had a sense of, today, I think it's much worse. I think that, not my personal belief, is that this is not a battle, though it still exists, or racism is very real. It hasn't gone away. And I'm not going to minimize racism and bigotry and all of that, and xenophobia, and hatred of women, and so many phobias. But I'm also going to say that I'm seeing something I've never seen before, and that is the disparity between the wealthy and the uber wealthy, the very rich, small percentage of the population, and the rest of humanity, to the degree that it seems, or it appears to me, that there is a view of other people as we are disposable. I mean, the discoveries of AI seem to point that out. As long as it's profitable to us, we can put you in the unemployment line. As long as the AI robot is going to be not needing a maternity leave or a vacation or health care, and I don't have to pay any of that, then you're dismissed. You can put your things in a box and leave the building.
Right.
That lack of humanity is what I worry about. And ironically, the people who get into a position like that are people who tend to not sense what humanity is all about, or even their own humanity, much less, because I don't believe for a minute that they're happy. Nothing will make them happy. Imagine a person who would lead a great nation, who needs to have their name on every building, who needs to have the Nobel Peace Prize, who who could never ever admit they've done one single solitary thing wrong in their entire life.
Right.
That's not a happy person. And
No.
I'm not drift us into politics, but I really think that uh, there's an element in our society today that's driving our country, and unions which were the backbone, which helped us to be able to kind of balance the uneven playing field. are weakening. And, I think 30% of the working people were in a union or associated with a union in the 1950s and 60s. But now, I think it's like 12%, 13%, very, very small percentage. So we don't have the ability to be able to have, an engagement of parity and fairness and justice and seek justice like we used to have. So, that can only lead down one path. And I hate to say it, I don't know where I heard this, but revolting conditions, and have they continue to get even worse than they are, revolting conditions always lead to a revolution. And that isn't pretty. And I hope it doesn't come to that, because I believe in peacemaking. I believe in nonviolence.
Well, I don't know if you're familiar with the study that was done, and I believe it was done just for our country, where happiness tops out in regard to money. And what they found, and this has been several years ago, so it may be a little bit higher now because inflation and all of that, cost of living. But they found that per person, self-reports of happiness topped out at about $75,000. So for one person, after $75,000, it didn't make them any happier. For a couple, after 150, it didn't really make them any happier. And that even that topped out at 3 people. So if you had a couple and a child at $225,000, it topped out, even if they had 2 or 3 more kids after that. So anyone who thinks that 4 billion is going to make them any happier than 225,000 is fooling themselves. Now, does it give you more access to things in the world? Yeah, but most of those things aren't good. It gives you more access to being in power or control over people, which isn't good. It gives you more access to things that are bad, like drugs or crime or human trafficking or getting out of trouble with any of those things because you can pay your way out of it. But people don't believe that when they hear that. But it's an actual study. They think that if they had $4 billion, they could be so happy. No, you're probably a really miserable person at that point.
Yeah. I
And
heard
you don't even know it.
right. Well, and people don't understand. I think that's a wonderful point, because what is happiness? I wish I could remember the quote. It's just a little fragments of it in my mind, but it started out with, if you want to be happy for a minute, buy a Krispy Kreme donut. If you want to be happy for a couple of hours, get your fishing pole and go fishing. If you want to be happy for years to come, find someone that you love and marry them. If you want to be happy for the rest of your life, spend time
Never
helping
make
the
a pretty woman your wife.
yeah. But if you want to be happy in the deepest, most profound way, find someone poor that you can reach out to and make their life better. That will bring you happiness.
Right.
All of us. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's
Well,
ironic because, Janie, if you work at a soup kitchen or volunteer at a food bank or a clothing bank or a warming shelter, whatever it is, or some other avenue at church or social services, whatever, we get back more than we give. That's the irony. It's hard to believe it. I really believe that there is no completely unselfish act. Everything we do, we get something back for it. Virtue is its own reward. At least that's something. You're doing the right thing. You may not, think you're getting much back, but that satisfaction of the change that happens within you when you do the right thing, and how that makes you become a better human being in this world, and grows your soul. The reason we're alive, right? Humanity 101, the purpose for being alive is to grow, is to
Right.
love more fully and be loved and to try to change the world. The only thing standing in the way of the world becoming a peaceful, better place is people who refuse to look inward and change themselves. We have to start with ourselves, ultimately. And if we give ourselves away, we find that happiness that you're talking about.
I agree with that. Yeah.
And doing
Well,
something for
and
someone else, what a joy.
I
What a
think for
joy.
me, if I were to say what one of the biggest measures of happiness, if I had to self report, would be, is that knowing that I can afford everything I need. That would be the biggest one. That I can afford a home, a vehicle, the bills that come with those things, and any health emergency or health care that I need, and food.
Right.
Okay, so the basic shelter, food, medical care, the basic needs, I can afford all of those without having to lay in bed and worry about any of that at night. That would be my
Exactly.
number one. Number two
Exactly.
would be that I could afford, say, 20% of what I wanted. So I could still maybe go see a movie occasionally, eat out a few nights a month, um, buy a new handbag if I saw one, but nothing major. I don't need 100% of my wants, because here's where I think another measure of happiness comes in, is working for what it is you want, having what you need, but still needing to work for what you want. Do you remember when women used to sit and fill those books with what were the stamps called?
Oh, green stamps and
Green stamps, yes.
S and H. I think there were a variety of
Right.
them.
And how much fun these women and their families together would have, looking through and picking out the things they wanted and that they were going to work towards.
That's right.
Licking the stamps, tearing the stamps. And they, I mean, while not looked at as conventional work, it's still work, and dreaming about that thing that you wanted. And how many times that thing that they wanted, in between the time that they started and they had enough green stamps, uh, that was the biggest amount of happiness of the whole thing. It wasn't in receiving the item, although the day you received the item, your new blender or mixer or whatever it was, that was a happy day. But the happiness was in having a goal and working towards it. So when you can pretty much afford anything on this earth because you have billions of dollars, where is your happiness coming from now? There is no reaching for something. There is no want that you can't fulfill. There is no dream of having something. It's all instant gratification.
Yeah.
Delayed gratification actually is a big indicator of happiness, I believe. Knowing that all your needs are met, but something that you want, you're still going to have to save for. When
Yeah.
we used to put Christmas presents in layaway,
Layaway. Yes.
you had to work for it, or start your Christmas account at the bank. And every
Right.
week you'd put $5 or $20 in it. And just, you had that goal. What's the goal if you have $1 billion and you can just go out and get anything you want? There is no happiness in that. I would think, you know, if anything, that makes you miserable, knowing that there is nothing that you can't have.
Right. Yeah, I mean, easy come, easy go, and we have a generation, or had generations. I'm not saying the current one. I think right now the current generation is really struggling. In my personal opinion, young people today have it far tougher than I did. I'm 76 years old. When I was 20, well, actually, when I was 18, I was living in a one room with a Murphy bed and a hot plate, and I paid, what was it, $50 a month for rent. On Yakima Avenue in Tacoma, I was attending a technical school, and I would repair clocks at Myers House of Clocks in the evening after school. I was learning watch, jewelry, and clock repair. to make a go of it, and I did fine. And on the weekends, I'd play basketball with all the guys down at Wright Park. And I didn't know how poor I was. Well, they would think I was poor, but I didn't, and I was happy. And I was all able to accomplish all that with so little. And young people today, I mean, houses that people buy today are out of proportion financially to income. The income that I had when I was younger, I could buy a house. My dad bought a house and a new car every year if he wanted to or needed to. He had 8 kids in private school, and we never had any problem. And only one person working. Kids were in private school, and yet today, that's unthinkable. Things are not the same,
No.
and that's how uneven. I was looking at Janie, and kind of to balance what you're saying too. Um, People today wouldn't know what layaway is. People wouldn't know the satisfaction of having to wait a few years before you acquire something that you really want and probably need, whereas other generations have not gone through that process. And I think there's something satisfying and genuinely beneficial, bringing happiness to us when we have to do this work ourselves and we make that happen. I think anything that's been handed to you. Uh, when I was 17 and getting ready to leave Nebraska after I finished high school, there was a family. I had a wealthy family I lived in Nebraska. They owned, on my dad's side of the family, real estate and car dealerships. And I didn't know them very well, but they knew me as a young kid. And they liked me for some reason. God only knows why. And you know what they did? They said they had me sign something, and they gave me a catcher's mitt. And I'm like 10 years old, 8 years old, probably 8 years old. And they said, we're going to, well, they didn't tell me this. They told my dad, and I found out years later. They put $10,000 in the bank to grow, and so that when I came of age at 17 or 18, I could go to college. Well, the day came when I was leaving Nebraska, and a family member checked in with them because I didn't know them that well. And they said, well, we meant to do that, but we never did. I'm sorry. Well, that was a real gift to me. $10,000 at interest over all those years. That would have been, I didn't earn that.
Right.
What would that have meant to me, Janie? It's the fact that, I learned a mighty lesson that day. You have to count on yourself, and you have to work hard. And when you do, you're happier for it. It's so beautiful.
Right.
When we discriminatingly choose to help one another, we do so because the people that we choose to help are not going to abuse that. Now, I've screwed up online. I have really effed up. But we have to, what do they call that? There's a word for that. When we have to vet those individuals. And every one of us needs to do that, whether they're on the street holding a sign or whatever they may be. In the church, all the years I worked, there's some amazing stories. You'd laugh about them today of people coming for help to the church. And I remember one time a guy needed he was going to Wenatchee, Seattle. Wenatchee's, they grow apples there, a fair distance from Seattle. And so, but he needed gas for his car. I said, oh, no problem, let's go. He said, what? I said, well, let's go fill up your car. Suddenly, he didn't need the gas. There was no car to fill up with gas. And that's the whole part of the vetting process. One of the worst things we can do is help someone when we're actually hurting them. And, we want them to be a person who it really will benefit. And God bless us, we need to do that. I'm not ever going to become bitter. And I've made plenty of mistakes in my life. And I know you're a giver as well. All we can do is try to be awake in the moment and try to help the right people. And I would never want any donation to hurt someone. And there are people who end up, you know that too, right? Who use that resource for something that is
Exactly.
going to hurt them, really. Yeah. And
Well, there are two things I want to say real quick before I forget them. The first one is that when I realized that I was a giver, right?
Yep.
I had to
You
come
are.
to terms with the idea that sometimes I was going to give and it was going to be helpful and everything was going to turn out wonderfully. But I had to be okay with the idea that sometimes I was going to give and I was going to be used, or things weren't going to be used for what they said they were going to be used for. And I had to be okay with that.
That's right.
Once the money left my hand,
That's right.
it was not mine anymore.
Yep.
And that my intentions had been good, and that was all that I could control.
Yeah.
So I
Amen.
really dislike listening to people say, I gave her $20 because she said she needed milk for her kids, and I found out she went and bought cigarettes with it. Well, you have
Yeah.
to be okay with that, because
Yep.
once that $20 left your account and went into her account or whatever, however it got there, it wasn't yours anymore. And
That's right.
apparently she made an overriding decision, but your intention was good. You intended to get milk for the children.
Exactly.
And that's all you can be held responsible for, what your intention was.
Yeah.
The
You
second
know,
thing, oh, go ahead, because
no, no,
I'll
you
remember
go.
the second.
No, please go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, because the second one's going to kind of change the subject, and I don't want to change it yet.
Oh, well,
So
all right. The whole thing about milk and cigarettes, I was just thinking that, who are we to know? But maybe in her moment of, cigarettes are really hard to get off of. I've never smoked, but I've been told they are, and most people in my family smoked, and it's a tough thing. And maybe she needed that. Maybe she needed that relief, and maybe later, I mean, what would have happened if she hadn't been able to relieve the tension from not being able to smoke? I don't know, but I mean, we don't really realize the battles people are fighting inside themselves, and sometimes we have to, like you said, let go and let this happen. And we
right,
don't see the end and how everything unfolds. We have to be okay with that.
exactly. You
Yeah,
just have to. Once the money is not yours anymore, you've lost control of it, and you have to be okay with that.
exactly. Welcome, Black Eagle.
Hi, Black Eagle. Now, the second thing I was going to say is that the absolute best date that Luke and I ever went on, and this is the one date I will never forget in my entire dating history. And it's because it felt so good to me. So it was kind of a selfish thing. But we took a few $100s it was right before Christmas or Thanksgiving, into the grocery store, paid it on one of the registers, and told them to cover however many people came through at the last minute rushing for their holiday groceries and on all this. And then we parked outside, right outside where they stack the water bottles, so people can't really see out, but you can still see the people inside. And we sat there for, it maybe lasted 15 minutes, watching people come through and be told that their groceries were paid for. Now, because it was right before the holiday, people had really small orders, like they were just coming in because they ran out of butter or whatever.
Hmm.
And that was the best feeling, being anonymous, getting to watch these people's faces, watching people hug, because they would hug the cashier, right? Um, it was one of the most amazing days of my life, and I'll never forget it. Now, did I do that for those people? No, not really. I didn't know if those people needed it. I didn't know anything about those people. I did that for me. That was my Christmas present to me. So sometimes, even when we give,
Right.
we're doing it for reasons other than what we think we are. And I think that's
Absolutely.
why people get offended when they find out they've been, you know, scammed or whatever.
Right.
When someone says they need milk for their kids and you find out they bought cigarettes, I think it's because you wanted to feel good. You needed a boost to your mood, and you thought you were envisioning children getting milk with their cereal.
Right.
But what the vision that you're left with is the vision that of some woman sitting there smoking cigarettes with her raspy voice, and those two visions are completely different. So if we can strip away our visions of what helping people looks like, um, I think a lot of us would be less disappointed, even when we knew we'd been had.
Right. Right. Well, I guess it comes down to we don't. That's great stories and great illustrations. Thank you, Janie. Life is a mystery, and life is something unknown as we go forward. We don't know how people are going to respond, and we don't know how they'll, what behavior will follow, and we have to be okay with that. Really, there's a great deal of trust involved, and but we learn all the time. The most important thing is never to become hardened of heart. That's the worst thing to do. Not just in terms of charitable outreach, but also in terms of just, being open to friendship. I mean, there's no human being on this earth that isn't going to let you down because there are no perfect people. Clearly,
Right.
I always say we're clumsy lovers. We bruise each other all the time with words and deeds, but we have to be people of some capacity to forgive because we ourselves need forgiving. We ourselves have hurt others. And if
Right.
we can do that, that's the greatness in you and the strength that you called upon. And, that's a game changer. If we want this world to look different tomorrow, then we have to look different tomorrow. I mean, that's what I would think. It comes down to that. We don't have to change Washington, D.C. We need to begin by changing ourselves. That's where it arrives at. And from there, we can actually be happy. We already actually have happiness. I was going to put up a little image. If you don't mind, I'll just do it while we're talking. This is from a psychologist, one that has meant probably more to me in my life. Anthony DeMello. He was a Jesuit and a psychologist and a spirituality expert. He talked about happiness can't be found or acquired. Why? Because we already have it. The reason we don't see it or experience it is because we're blocking it. And he says God can't be found for the same reason. He's already here. You don't have to look for God or search for God or happiness. God is happiness because He's already here. But now, the reason we don't experience is because we have an obstruction. Something's blocking it. What's standing in the way? Well, he refers to them as obstructions or possessions or attachments. The word he uses a lot at the very bottom there. The root of sorrow and unhappiness is desire and attachments. I want what you have. I will then be happy when I have everything you have. Or I want my toys back. Because when I was younger, I had my wife, I had my house, I had this, I had that. I want all that stuff back. I want my job back. And the
Right.
reality is life has moved on from that. That wasn't your happiness anyway. You thought it was. You were wrong. And so really what we have to do to find happiness is remove the attachments that block us from seeing what's right in front of us. And that's why children, I think, was it put? Let's see if I can get off this here. Unless you become like a little child. Sorry about that. Unless you become like a little child, you will not enter the kingdom of heaven. What is it about a little child? They own nothing. They're powerless. They depend. The little piranhas. They need us for everything, and they're happy because they're not greedy. Well, some are. They learn that from their
Have
parents.
you ever given a child candy?
Yeah, right.
Greedy. No, that's the
Well,
dopamine hit
yeah.
that
I
makes them
think
greedy.
though. Yeah, right. When you look back on your childhood, now this may not be a sweeping generalization, of course, but I think most people can look back. Some people had horrific childhoods. I went through my own personal abuse as a child. Maybe others have. I don't know. You don't have to say. But in childhood, generally, people find a kind of natural happiness, a natural state of happiness, because they're not initially, as a child at least, They're not immersed in, I have to go to work, I have to go to school, I have to do this, I have to do that. My bills need to be paid. I've got this expectation. My boss is on my ass. I've got all this stuff going on. Children are free of that burden to a general extent, all right, for the most part. And because of that, they're walking around with a butterfly saying, "Oh, mom, look at this," or they bring in a gopher or some god awful thing, and mom says, "Get that out of the house." But they're fascinated
Right.
because nothing is standing in the way of them seeing the beauty and the joy and the fascination and the amazement and the wonder of life. And I think
Well,
that's where, yeah,
having had a very, probably what most people would consider bad childhood, I can say that I didn't know I had a bad childhood until I became an adult and realized that what I saw as a normal childhood was a bad childhood. And it had taken its toll on me. And I had effects from it for sure. But when I was living it, I was living it like a child with no knowledge that this was a bad childhood.
yeah, I hear you.
It just was what it was. It
Yeah,
was my childhood.
yep, I hear you. It'd be like everyone, you'd be, a child might think, well, isn't everybody put into a closet at night?
Right.
Isn't
Isn't
that what,
everyone afraid of their parent? I didn't
right,
know that everyone was afraid of their parent. You know, doesn't everyone uh, throw up when they lie? Well, no, everyone doesn't throw up when they lie.
right,
But because of the fear I had of my parent, I did. But I didn't know these things. So I think maybe the acceptance of just things being what they are is what that means in some way. To be like a child. Just
right,
realize that this is how it is, um, and find the wonder in the world.
right. When Jesus said that, it's so interesting in the gospel. His disciples, his apostles, were arguing amongst themselves. They were having this big debate. Who's the greatest among us? Well, I am. No, he is. He thinks, no, he's wrong. I am. And Jesus comes across that and says, look, and he brings a child and puts a child in the middle of them and says, unless you become like this little child, you're not even going to be in my kingdom. The first one in is this child. But what makes that more powerful that we usually don't see and no one tells us about is a child in first century Palestine, where Jesus was absolutely the property of their parents. They had no rights whatsoever. A parent could sell them for servitude in some indentured way. If they wanted to, they could do that. A parent could punish, especially the man. The man owned his wife and his children. They were his personal property, literally, full
Right.
stop, personal property. So a child abuse, in many ways, that they would have accepted as, well, Adam was born. God gave Adam birth, and then Eve from his rib, and so you have this hierarchy of obedience and so on. Jesus didn't buy into that. Jesus was turning it all upside down. So when they were arguing, saying, I'm the greatest, there weren't any women there arguing, hey, I'm as great as. Jesus took a child who was on this, the hierarchies of status, the lowest rung of the ladder, and said, unless you become like this child. A lot of these children, if they were in Jerusalem, these children who were sold by their parents, some were incorrigible, or the parent thought, how would a young female child survive, Janie?
Right. Yeah.
And the apostles weren't stupid. They felt they were unclean from what they did.
Mhm.
And you have a 12-year-old trying to survive, and the apostles, didn't get it. This 12-year-old, or however age they were, who was trying to survive in the only way they knew how, because they weren't allowed to work. I mean, they were considered unclean. God was punishing them for whatever reason. And so they did what they had to do. The same story, really, and when the woman caught in adultery was brought to Jesus. You know, all he did, he wasn't there to judge anybody. He was there to love them. You know, his judgment was love, and that's what changed everything. Unless you become like this child, you know, your ego isn't going to make it slide into that small, needle's eye. It's not going to fit. You're not going to
Right.
get in.
Yeah, I can think of lots of things along that line that could mean that, you know.
Yeah.
Um, how many times my parent scared me, hurt me, all of that. But you know what? As a child, I still loved my parent more than anything, you know? And
That's
maybe
right.
that's what it means. No matter how much you've been hurt, you still should love.
Right. There's a
We
lot.
can't,
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, we can't stop loving just because life can be painful.
Right. Unfortunately, there are times when people suffer such immense brokenness that what goes on in the brain is a self-protective mechanism to try to protect the child, for example, from future pain. And they close up. And those wounds have been too intense, and the brain is rescuing them. They might lose all memory of the horrific events that happened to them in childhood. There are
Right.
different ways that the human body tries to protect itself. But there is a wound that needs healing. And, you know, that wound, you know, I hate to say it, you know, it goes one of two ways. In the Sufi religion, the mystics call it bashk or kumps. And one is to go out in a kind of external search for meaning and healing, or kumps, to come within inside oneself, to be able to look inward within you to find healing. And I can tell you, kumps, the interior movement of the spirit, is the one that will ultimately heal us. But we have to do that. It's a requirement of us to get well. Absolute requirement. You know, I mean, to me, when I look at, and I don't mean to be chastising, but you know, if life were a swimming pool, right? If life were a swimming pool, a public swimming pool, let's say, um, most adults are sitting in the kiddie end of the pool. We need to
Oh,
swim
yeah.
out, right, to the deep end and immerse ourselves into where adults should be. We have to do daring things. We have to become better swimmers at life. We have to become better human beings. We have to take some risks. We can't play it safe all the time. You know, that's required of us.
And on the
And
reverse side of that, you know, we've got a lot of adults who are staying in the kiddie pool, but there are a lot of children who have been thrown head first into the deep end.
amen. That is true.
Now, if we could just get them all to meet somewhere in the middle of that pool, these adults, you know, to rescue some of these kids that have been put into the deep end, and those kids to help the adults grow. Hey,
Absolutely. Yeah. I put a link out, Janie, to see if anybody else wants to come up. So I'll just remind anybody on side chat. I was hoping Carrie might be in the audience or want to come up on panel. If she does, I don't know if she's out there listening. But Carrie, because you and I spoke the other day about this live stream, if you are there and available, you know, we never know when people are even around and available. Life goes on. Oh, there she is. um,
hey, Mary.
yeah, if you would like to come up, happy to have you come up. It's no arm twisting involved. It's not a command performance, but if you'd like to, we certainly welcome you to do that. Just let me know. Oh, you've been listening for part, had to eat dinner. Yeah. I fed my dog just before I came on. And then I have some street noise from the back. So I usually let her out there. Instead, I've got an inside door into the garage that goes through another door and out into the backyard so she can, if she needs to, go out and do her thing. But life goes on, and we have lots of things we have to do. Um, understandably. If you do at some point, if you'd like a link, just let me know, or anyone else on side chat, if you would like to come up on panel,
Yeah, I
please
would
feel
love it
free.
if someone else would come up.
If who? I'm sorry.
I said I would love it if someone else would come up. I
Yeah,
love listening to these discussions.
yeah. You're getting a little tiring for me. No, that was a joke. That was just,
Well, I was just sitting here rubbing my eyes like, oh my gosh, is he ever going to
is he
stop?
ever gonna stop, Stellar? Please, enough.
Stellar and
No,
I are just way too comfortable with each other now.
yeah, not so stellar. That's for sure. The talking head par excellence. Oh my God.
No,
Uh,
in all seriousness, I have missed these Sunday gatherings.
oh, I'm glad.
Um,
I'm glad.
they do a lot for me. They really do.
Well, I wondered if it would be a good day to do it. Sunday is the day of rest, so for me, when I worked in the church, Sunday was a day of intense effort. Really, there were so many things we did. Sunday was a day of work, really, if you want to come down to it, the Lord's
Right.
work. Um, but a lot of people, maybe we're in a different mindset on Sunday. Some people actually do go to church. Some people do it online. But people maybe have that awareness of another element in our life that we can take this particular day, which is kind of set aside by our Lord as a day to reflect.
He'll put the link right here in chat for you, Carrie. It's your own personal link. No one else can use it.
Oh yeah, let me do that. If you want this, I'll put your name next to it. So if you choose to, let me get one here for you. And just like Janie, you just click on it, and that's. You want to tell her what she has to do? There isn't a whole lot, is there?
Sure. You click on the link. It'll take you to it takes me to a green page. You type in what name you want to use on the screen, and then you click join. And I turn off my camera, even though he doesn't have it on when I come up. I turn it off just because it uses less resources while I'm up here. And your microphone's down at the bottom. It looks very similar to StreamYard.
Yeah, it's Australian software. It is different from StreamYard's. Um, I got it a long time ago, and I've just been hooked on it. I'm an old dog that can't learn new tricks, but it's been good for me to use. I've enjoyed it. I don't know of anybody else though in our community that uses. This is called VMix, VMIX. I don't know of anybody
Yeah, it
else that
seems
does.
like anytime I've ever used it with you, it seems like it works very well.
Oh, I'm glad. I'm glad. I think I've had some problems with people who use Apple products, possibly, or cell phone Apple products. I don't know.
I'm on an iMac, so
Oh, oh,
I've never had any problems.
good, good. Oh, I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad to hear that. I've been hearing that StreamYards may be having some issues with Apple. Is that? I'm not sure. I might be
Yeah,
completely wrong.
so I think so because I know when I use it to go live on Tuesdays, I'm not getting like the notification that someone's in the back and things like that.
Right. I've got to send a message to a flying bird. You know who I mean by when I say a flying bird. Uh, she says, "Stellar, you're the oldest dog," and I'm underlining that, saying, "Yes, I am." But I got good DNA, and it ain't my family DNA; it's a divine DNA. We all. That's what Jesus left behind. He left behind his DNA, and we all have access to it. So it helps.
I think you took more than your share.
I don't know. um, I I just learned that, he doesn't want people to admire him. Jesus wants followers, not admirers. He wants people to get in the trench and get down and do it. And I've been resisting that most of my life, but I'm trying to do my best.
I forget which song it is, but and what band it's by. Might be an Our Lady Peace
Mm.
or something like that song. But the lyric that you just reminded me of is Jesus wants his records back.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Could
I
y'all
think
hear?
it. Go ahead.
She said, "Could y'all hear me? I don't know what I'm doing. Sorry."
Oh, let me make sure if I put the audio on. Carrie, here. Now your audio. Go right ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, hello.
Hi and welcome.
Thank
Janie's
you.
up. Oh, it's good to have you up here. Janie's up here with us, the three of us.
Hi, Jamie.
Hi, Carrie. I'm gonna
It,
mute and let you guys talk it out for a little bit, and I'll jump in as necessary.
no, I'll miss you.
Well, I've been talking for a long time, and I'm pretty sick of Stellar. So
No,
She is. That is true. Yeah, I think what she's really trying to tell us is she's going to
Take it to the limit. Take it to the limit. Take it to the limit. One more time.
yeah, that's our Janie.
that's exactly it. So
And
yeah, I'm gonna
that
mute, but I'll jump in if it feels necessary.
okay.
okay.
And that was Scottsbluff, Nebraska's own Randy Meisner, the soul of the Eagles. God rest his soul. Rest in peace.
He, he passed.
Yeah, I believe it was last year. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah. He was a little older than I am, so that's getting way up there in age. Yeah,
Well, how
yeah.
are you doing?
I am fair to partly cloudy, 98.6. I'm doing well. I'm doing well. And how about you?
Okay. I'm good, thanks.
Good,
I'm
good.
sorry I missed part of your show. I was listening for part of it. And then
Oh, no problem.
you're covering a topic I'm really interested in.
Well,
And
I'll leave it up so yeah, people can go back.
okay, thanks.
Yeah. So this is an interest area for you, is what you're saying.
Yes, because I very much believe in that uh the directives God's given us, and Jesus to what we're supposed to be doing on the earth. And it's not always easy to do. So when people have a heart for it, I feel like they're very blessed, you know.
Yeah, that's very well put. I think that, we see ourselves in relationship to infinitely loving is, whatever word we want to use for a supreme being. And that's humbling.
Yeah.
But it puts us in a perspective of life that's going to be in service of that which none greater is. And that's a good place to be. Um, I don't know. I believe that not just because of an intellectualization, but one day, you know what we should do? You, me, Janie, whoever wants to do this, share our personal experiences that we've had of what some call the sacred and holy. People have had. Some call it being born again. I don't. I use having a faith core experience. They're different words. That's all they are. But you know how wonderful that is, because if one is able to share something, that provides, I think, some of the testimony about why I believe why I believe. It wasn't because somebody else
Right.
told me to. Something happened. And if something happens to us, we should never minimize it, never forget it, and realize that is one of these awakening moments. St. Paul had one on the road to Damascus. They happen. There's no one way to have them. Um, and the
Right.
other thing, Carrie, the thing that I really like is that people are saying, and this is thousands of people. It wasn't something that was talked about so much back in the 60s. It's kind of started in the 70s, but what we call near-death experiences, where people experience something beyond what you would normally associate with the five senses within our bodily form, right? And people usually
Yes.
have a brush with death, but and they come back. Some are afraid to talk about it. But people have other experiences not related to death as well, and it may be just simply in
I've
prayer. Yeah.
I've seen heaven so many times, and people don't believe me, and so I don't argue with them, and I also don't talk about my experiences anymore, hardly at all. But I've been to heaven so many times. It is so wonderful, and I
Oh.
have had people tell me I should speak about this or write a book about it because it would give comfort to people, and I'm like, no, thank you. But I very much am passionate about what the afterlife has for us and how important that part of our eternity is and how it's minimized on this earth by, the powers that be, not necessarily the government or the military or whatever, but just the over overseeing, the leadership just does not want us to think about long-term things because it would make us bad slaves. So anyway, so I just wanted to say I'm super interested in that and I'm super passionate about it. And I think that if people knew what was going to happen when they die, that they would be so comforted and
Yeah.
relieved if they're going to heaven. I don't know what if they're not going to heaven, I'm not sure what they'll feel, but
I really appreciate your having the courage to share that. Um, a lot of times people say, well, especially years ago when it wasn't talked about. When I was in seminary in the early 70s, I took a course called thanatology. Thana is the Latin for the end, the final end of the human person, death. Um, and
oh,
they
you
were just
studied
talking.
death?
Oh yeah, yeah. They were, yeah. Well, they wanted us to. I mean, near-death experiences were barely talked about. I mean, this was just on the cusp of it. If you wanted to get a doctorate in thanatology or near-death experiences, the field would have been yours. There were only a few papers written on the subject. It was just so taboo. But now,
Yeah, it
especially,
still is. It's
yes.
people still bully people for it. They still go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh no, you're fine. The only thing I was just going to add, the University of Virginia is the hotbed, and it's an academic, research-oriented area having to do with near-death experiences. The University of
Oh,
Virginia,
they
yes,
look for
and
like the where the brain activity continues and stuff like that.
well, not yes, that, and also they have done literally thousands of interviews. Um, I've got different links I could provide. I should probably put that when this is all done with this live stream, if people want to look into that. But I think it's another avenue that people are saying, there's more to life than we ever realized. And some people get a glimpse. I knew a family, Carrie, when I was working for the church. I was working in Bremerton, Washington, at Our Lady Star of the Sea, and it was a Navy parish. And there was a naval shipyard there, and the Navy submarine base at Bangor, and so a lot of military. One of the friends of mine that I met, they had two kids, and I think they were 7 and 8 years old at the time. And I was doing sacramental preparation, helping the family with their children be prepared for sacraments. One of them, the young boy who was like 8 years old, came down with what was called Ewing sarcoma. And Ewing
Oh, I'm so
sarcoma,
sorry.
yeah, that's not a good one. And it's something that,
No.
so he I'll just share with you a little bit. In the process of before he died, at a certain time of the day, and he finally told his mother about this. His name is Timmy. Uh, he said that someone, an angel, used to come and sit at his bed, and he would see an indentation in the bed where they were sitting. That's what Timmy said.
Yes.
And he told his mother about this. And it happened at the same time of day every day, about 2 weeks, starting a couple of weeks before he died, as if they were coming to prepare him. And his
Yes, they
mother,
do. They have a
yeah,
team that is assigned to us that comes and help us transfer over to the next life. It's
yeah,
like a medical team. My mom was a respiratory therapist when she was alive, and she's a nurse for one of the teams. They have like a group of people, and they start to come about 2 weeks before you pass, and they start to prepare you. If like it's not a sudden violent death, even sometimes, even
right,
if it is, they still sometimes will give you signs and stuff.
right.
Okay,
He
sorry, I didn't mean to
said,
interrupt you. Go ahead.
oh, no, no, I'm glad you said that because his mother said, Timmy, why didn't you tell me that? And Timmy responded to his mother and said, I didn't think you'd believe me.
Oh, that's
That
sad.
that an angel was coming and he told her everything after. He says, yeah, I was talking to grandma the other day, and grandma had been dead for years. And what he was essentially saying was that we're not alone, and we're being prepared. When my dad died, I was blessed enough to be with him and my sister and her husband. And just before, moments before he died, he sat up in bed, and he hadn't been doing a lot of movement up until then. And I said, Dad, relax. And his eyes were fixed on the door. I mean, I swear to God, this happened. And he was seeing
Yeah,
someone. He laid back
I
down,
believe you.
and he was
Yeah, they
gone.
can physically see them.
Yeah, they do, and we couldn't. But
Right.
they had
But it's not a hallucination. It's not like their brain
no,
playing tricks
no,
on them. Like they sometimes will try to tell
no.
us. They'll try to say, like, oh, it's just the brain overactive because it's dying. It's like, no, they really see
Right.
them. They really
Oh,
see them for real.
yeah. Well, I was just the other day. I wish I could think of the name of this doctor. He's oncologist who does. He's getting older. He's still doing. He's working part time, but an oncology doctor his whole life. Very well known in the NDE community, and he was talking about what you just mentioned about how can you verify that this isn't just extracurricular brain activity and has nothing to do with a spirituality of the world and beings beyond. And and he went into it in detail in terms of the physiology and the science behind the brain. And many people are completely unconscious, and yet they're able to report back. Those who come back are able to report back, and those who come back talk about things they could not have, should not have, could in no way know about, and yet they did. He told one
Right.
story of, yeah, he had met some, well, this person that came back from the edge of death, reported on meeting someone who had died in a car crash, had a brand new car that their parents gave them. This was a younger person, and there was a connection there, but she didn't know. The girl that came back, who had the near death experience, said, "Look, um, I don't know who this is, but and she started to tell every nurse that she could, and they started to cry. They couldn't believe it. It was one of their friends who was given a new car, and she crashed it and was killed instantly. This girl had no way. She was under surgery, under anesthesia before the accident happened, and yet she was able to tell them. I mean, there's no explanation for this, none. And that's what the oncologist was talking about. It happens. Carrie, are you still there?
Sorry. Yes, I was talking to you, but I think
Oh,
my
it
screen had
muted.
gone dark, so I think it like muted me.
Okay,
I
no
was saying, yeah,
problem.
there's no logical explanation, but there is a spiritual one. And I think that the Bible does talk about seeing clearly. And it also talks about if we lose our eyes or our vision, we can
That's
still
right.
see. And I
That's
think
right.
that it also talks about the light. And so I think all of those things are clues to us about what the real vision is. It's not what we just see in the physical realm.
Right.
And the other things, I think people start to see those things when they're closer to death, because I think the veil is being lifted. And sometimes people have the veil lifted through for other reasons. It may not just always be near death experience. It could be something else traumatic or whatever. And they
Right.
can start to see things. Sometimes it's bad too. Sometimes it's bad things that we don't want to see. Like the veil is lifted and people will start to sense demons around them. I think those
Yeah.
demons are probably
Yeah.
always around us, but we just don't see them because we're blessed to have we're blessed to have the veil at times. But I think
Right.
it's really touching when people get to the ends of their lives, if they're able to meet the people that they love and get to cross over and be with them, because no one dies alone. And that's another thing that
That's
I wish
right.
people knew, is that none of us die alone, even if we
That's
think
right.
we've left. Like sometimes we'll leave the room and a loved one will die. Like when a person that's been at the hospital with someone they love and they go home to get a shower or they go to take a nap and then the person passes away, and it's like they do it because they want to not have you see it, or they may just want to be there for you while you're there, but then it's like they can pass over and then people will think like, oh, I left him to die alone, but they didn't. Because nobody ever dies alone. We always have somebody with us.
Exactly. Yeah, I 100% believe that. And I think what's wonderful is that some of these are being verified, and the testimonies of people who had near death experience. The oncologist that was talking about this has studied thousands of cases. I think he may be the preeminent uh, contemporary physician who works in this field that's interviewed. I think he did a study of 994 people. Um, but he said, a lot of times
That's a lot.
people, yeah, if, and this is, I didn't know when I heard him say this the other day. He said that people under general anesthesia, general, when you're, he said quite often they have them. Some of them do, and a large percentage do, or some also don't. But this is not necessarily that their life was on the precipice, but just going under anesthesia itself. They say,
Yeah.
sleep is a form of is a mild door of death. We walk through that every night. We go to sleep, and it's an unconscious step toward death in a sense. We're not
Yes.
completely there. um, and so I think that it kind of gives itself credence to in certain states of being, whether it's
Right.
a person who is a contemplative in a monastery, as someone who is in a Buddhist monk or whoever it may be, in a deep state of prayer, they enter into another level or realm of consciousness and awareness. And I think that these are generally not part of the normal five senses that you just talked about, but it opens a portal to another one. And death
Yes.
does that. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I just was excited. Yes. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh, no problem. But it's a
Yeah,
fascinating.
we can have
Yeah,
our vision opened for us, and we can work at opening it ourselves. I've seen people that wanted to be able to communicate with the dead. Like there's this one woman in particular, I remember she kept telling me, like, I try all the time to do astral projection. I try all the time to talk to, the dead and stuff. And I'm like, no, you shouldn't try to do those things. They're like a curse, because the when people that have passed know that you can talk to them or hear them, they will come to you with horrible things that they've done to other people or that have been done to them, and you have to like go through it with them, like while it's happening. Like they want you to experience it with them. Like they put
right.
you in their body. You know what I mean? It's not something you want to have happen. If it does happen, it can be a blessing, but it's not something people should struggle to get to where they can open up that portal for themselves. If God didn't want them to have it open, I would say people should not try to open it. And sometimes I think when people think that the Bible says not to talk to the dead, I think what he was talking about was not to attempt to communicate with them. But if they communicate with you, I don't think that's a sin. And if you hear them when they communicate, I don't think that's a sin. That's what I
Right.
had to figure out,
Yeah.
is just, but I did not, I am glad that I don't hardly hear from them anymore. Or if I do, it's not the traumatic stuff, because that was a horrible time in my life where I had to keep going through being murdered over and over,
Oh
or
boy.
like people asking me to find their body or something. Like, it's very stressful.
Yeah.
So I don't think anybody should try to, but I mean, as far as like communing with God, I think that's good. That's good.
Right. One of the, you could say, I guess, a prohibition in the Old Testament, talking about spirits and involving oneself in the occult and things like that, and bits of it with St. Paul, really, in terms of background, had more to do with um, the the local group of gods that were part of the Middle Eastern world, and there were a lot of them in the pantheon of gods. And stay away from this one because they do this with the dead and the occult and so on. And a lot of the prohibitions had to do with remain faithful to our God. Not that somehow there, I think what we have come to believe is that there's really just one God,
Yeah.
monotheism. We don't believe in, and the fear of other gods. Abraham, before he followed Yahweh, believed in the God of the moon. When he was in Ur in the Chaldees, he believed in that the moon was a god. Well, many of them believed in all kinds of. Look at the Roman pantheon and the Greek pantheon that existed. So a lot of
Yes.
those, but we don't have. I think that we moved beyond that to being fairly monotheistic. I'm not exclusively, but so I just think that being open and not being fearful. As Jesus said, "I have overcome the world." And
Yes.
be not afraid. And as we go forward
Yes.
in life, things will happen spiritually, like happened to that little Timmy, the little boy who had Ewing sarcoma. And I think that other things happen when we go in for surgery, possibly. Not always. I've had many surgeries, but I haven't had a near-death experience. I've had some other things I'll have to share someday, but it may come to each individual differently. Some people wonder, well, why am I being left out? A lot of times when people have if you want to call it a gift of some sort of psi phenomenon or spiritual phenomenon, something, whatever you want to call it, um, it may be because they needed that. And many other people do not. That they can go through their life and maintain their faith and through day after day after day being sustained in faith without having maybe like what St. Paul had, a magnificent event of being knocked off his horse and a changed human being. Not everybody gets that. That's pretty rare. So, I mean, why do some have it and why do some do not? I think, we receive what we need, but we should always be open to receive. And in that way, if it is a need for us, we're not going to be putting up a barrier to it.
Right. That's a good point. Well, I don't know, because I don't know. It's. I think it's something that's hard to. Well, first of all, I don't even think that we teach people about it anymore. I don't think we really teach about gifts. And when the church does teach about them, they're not always teaching the truth. Sometimes they'll say something's a gift that's not. Like, they'll say speaking in tongues is a gift from the Holy Spirit, but it's not always. Or they'll say something isn't a gift that is. Like, they'll say that, I don't know, I grew up in a Baptist church, and so it was kind of
Mm-hmm.
back and forth on the thoughts of how they believed. But
Right.
I don't
Well,
know.
we have the gifts and fruits of the Holy Spirit, and we find them in St. Paul, and we certainly have the Beatitudes that Jesus offered us. We have the Mosaic Law. We have so much, and in spite of all of that, the content coming from God, we mere mortals don't understand it fully. and we do get things wrong. And the church
Yes.
itself has had so many different interpretations of what does this passage mean? What does that passage mean? And as many people, you'll find different interpretations. And you know, I don't look at that as a scandal so much as I do as the magnificent glory of God, that God is so immense that we cannot, one individual, capture the complete understanding of anything having to do with God. We always fall short. Uh, and uh,
Mm.
and I don't look at that as a negative. I think that, you know, um, we are, you know, in a sense, a dewdrop in the ocean, which is God, and just using a metaphor. But I think that we get an experience, but it's not. I think after death we have a better understanding of that. In fact, that's a little similar. I had a couple of things happen to me, and one of the things that happened to me was I asked a priest friend of mine in Texas. Actually, he's emeritus president at in San Antonio at the Oblate School of Theology, Rollheiser. And I said to him, I said, Rolly, we call him Rolly. I said, do you think I had a brain aneurysm? Because I was feeling pressure on my head and then this thing happened, experience. And he said, no, I think you had a mystical experience. And I go, really?
Yes.
Really? And
Yes.
I'm like, me, little old me? And, you know, and I thought back on it, Terry, and I didn't, I woke up in the middle of the night. I wasn't in prayer. I wasn't reading scripture. I wasn't trying to make something happen. I wasn't in despair. I wasn't on the precipice of suicide. There was nothing emotional. I woke up and I went to the living room and I stood at a table, and then something started to come over me. And quite by itself, not from any promptings of my own. And he
Right.
said, well, these things can happen. Others say, well, when you wake up, you're in a different realm, and you know, maybe your consciousness was open to something else, and it could be explained that way too. Well, you know, it doesn't really matter to me. I think that we know so little about the human condition, and we should really realize humbly how much more we're going to learn. We're just on the precipice of learning about who we are as children of God, and how much more that we will learn. And we need to undergo God. Let God, you know, this person that changed my life so much was Anthony de Mello. He was a Jesuit priest from India. And, you know, he talked about the whole experience really comes down to simply putting yourself at the dispose of what is sacred and holy. And it doesn't mean you have to do triple flips off the theological trampoline or memorize creeds and documents or any. It had nothing to do with that. It's simply being a person, a child of God in humble need and turning to this God. And that opens the doorway. That opens the doorway.
Yes.
I mean, really, nothing. We don't have to do any great things at all, you know.
Yeah. I think that the.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, I was just going to say, Mother Teresa of Calcutta, who, you know, when she died, they found her annotations, her writings, and eventually they put them into a book. When they found out what she wrote, they couldn't believe it. She said, when she took the train ride from Yugoslavia to Calcutta, she said that was the last time I experienced the closeness of God. And she continued to minister to the poor and you know, those in abject poverty on the street. But she didn't feel the closeness or nearness of God like she had before. And she wrote about this for decades when she did her work there for decades. After her death, this priest was given permission to go through her annotations, and they found this. And eventually a book was written. I think it was called Lead Kindly Light. And Time Magazine got a hold of that and said, well, or others as well, said, you know, she was a closet atheist. I mean, this woman was not really, look how she doubted God. She went, God, why aren't you there? Well, this friend of mine, Father Rollheiser, said, no, she wasn't an atheist. She was a champion athlete. She was like Christ on the cross, who, my God, why have you forsaken me? Where are you? I don't feel your closeness, your love, I need to lean on you, and I don't feel you. St. John of the Cross that I talked about earlier in this live stream refers to it as the dark night of the soul. There are times when God, it would seem, steps away to give us the full experience of faith. When we have no prayer book, no rosary beads, no celebration of Eucharist, no minister, nothing to cling to, nothing satisfies. Everything is gone. And you're completely by yourself, as Jesus was on the cross. Where are you, God? Why have you forsaken me? That was her time, her dark night. And it may be the opportunity for us to grow in ways that we could never possibly grow if we hadn't undergone that.
Yes. One time Medicaid didn't pick me up for my appointment, and I kind of felt like that.
Yeah, yeah.
I was
I
in a hospital in downtown Fort Worth, and I felt like I'd been forsaken and I didn't have a ride. I think it's not the same thing, but I felt like, like I was praying, of course, and asking him for what to do. And I think in our journey with him, there's going to be the highs and lows, but I think that he knows we're all human, and I think he respects that about us. Sometimes people are like overly groveling towards God, like they want to always please him and everything. And I feel like he's confident enough in himself that we can have periods where we have doubt or disbelief or
right,
grieving, and he's able to withstand that and is still there for us. Like when my
exactly.
husband died, I was spent like a year where I didn't believe in God because I didn't know why God would let that happen. And I was mad at him and I didn't speak to him. And then when I did speak to him, he was there immediately. He wasn't like, he didn't like punish me, for not talking to him. He was like, I was there the whole time. So
Right,
it was
right,
just me that like pulled back and didn't believe. But I think that was me being a human. I don't think God had any, I don't think, I think that we can be ourselves with him and he will understand.
right.
And I
I
think
agree.
doubting and not knowing what is there, not knowing if he's there, whatever, I think those are things that he would welcome because it's healthy skepticism. I mean, I wouldn't want to just be accepted with no thought whatsoever. And he talks about that sometimes. He talks about lukewarm Christians, people that like go through the motions, but there's no passion in them for him. And he likes us to have a
Right.
passionate heart for him.
Yes. Yeah. Um, there's probably two main reasons why we, at some point in our life, don't feel the closeness of God. One can be, I'll put it bluntly, sin. If we pull away or we put all kinds of worldly things in front, we block God out. It's like, I'll get to you on Sunday, Lord, or I don't have time this month or this year. Next year, I'm going to be there. We put the wall up. That's
Yeah.
one reason. The other reason, I think, is what John of the Cross was talking about. Sometimes God is testing us. Sometimes God wants all of our crutches removed so that we're in a free fall of faith. So we have no one to cling to except him. Mother Teresa, I was going to say this, and I'm not sure what Black Eagle might be talking about, but Mother Teresa was, there were people critical of her ministry in India. What some don't realize, and they interviewed many people who worked there for her, and so you have a real good variety of testimonies of what things were like. Mother Teresa was not trained in medicine. Mother Teresa was never went to university to study how to create a medical community or a hospital. She didn't have any of that type of training. She picked people up off the street that would have died otherwise and gave them a roof and food, warm food, and she held their hand. What people have said about her is, why didn't she give them pain medication? And the answer to that is, India is a very poor country, and the country itself, and they had their own donations that they used to try to help people. I'm trying to remember the grand total of people that she helped in her ministry, and it really wasn't possible for her, nor was she equipped, nor was she licensed to do medicine. She mainly did the work of. I'll be real honest with you. If I was right now, my nephew is in the hospital with brain cancer. He's got 3 huge lesions in his brain. We're praying for
I'm
him to.
sorry.
Oh no, that's okay. He's been through. He had like 7 or 8 surgeries recently, and he's still with us. But I'll tell you what I believe, Terry, and anybody else listening, and I mean this. Even though someone would give me the most modern, up-to-date medical care the world can give, but they wouldn't hold my fucking hand. Excuse my language. They
That's
wouldn't
okay.
wrap their arm around me. If I were denied love but given pharmaceuticals, I would rather, if I had to choose, take only the love. She gave the love. I think Mother Teresa gave the love. She didn't have access to be able to open a hospital. It didn't have the expertise or the. She was a religious order of nuns. you know, they're.
She was a
I
what?
know in a religious order of nuns, Sisters of Charity, they're not trained. Some nuns become nurses. That's true, but most of them don't. They enter the pre-novitiate and then go through the novitiate, and they may or may not even have college education. But they're the type of people that will go out in Seattle on First Avenue and pick up people in freezing cold winter and take them to a warming station. There are people that are trained to love people back. I would say Mother Teresa's life was about that, and it's I suppose it's somewhat fair, and people do. I don't know if that's what Black Eagle was getting at, but people do criticize Mother Teresa. But there were things that stood in the way of her being able to give the highest form of medical care, including the government of India. There were many things that stood in the way of it, but she did help where
I was
others.
going to say the government should probably be responsible for giving its citizens health care. I don't know,
Absolutely, yes.
but I can't see what Black Eagle's saying. I can't see the chat
Well, she said, why
because
do
I'm,
people start that about her? But she didn't really say much more, so I didn't know exactly. But I've heard the critique, the Mother Teresa critique, and I think that I get it. If you could give one person or everybody what they need, you give them the highest medical care possible and the greatest amount of, and profound amount of compassion possible. You give them all of that. She would have given the medical pharmaceuticals if she could have.
yeah,
But
as
I
long
think,
as she didn't discourage people from getting care, because I've seen some
right,
fundamentalist Christian types online that suggest things like they would suggest even to me, like not to get treatment for breast cancer. And it's like, no, thank you.
oh,
I'm
no,
going to believe
yeah,
in science.
yes,
Because
yes,
God's not going to
absolutely,
save me from that tumor. That
yeah,
tumor was going to kill me. And that doesn't mean God didn't care
right,
about me, but it meant
right,
that the things he put into the world to undo the damage of the world, such as medicine or medication that I got for you know what I
right,
mean, like the hormone treatment and things like that. Those are there because of God in my belief system. But it doesn't mean that my lack of faith is why I would have ended up dying from it, you know?
exactly.
Which that's not what you're talking about. I'm just distracted by
Uh, no, it's
seeing
good.
people that say
It's
they're Christians
yeah,
encouraging people
yeah.
not to get treatment. That's not what God
Oh
would ever
no,
tell us.
no, I
Is
100% so agree with you, 100%. Yeah, God, we are His hands and feet, eyes and ears, heartbeat, respiration. Doctors are
yeah,
the body of Christ. I mean, we're all in various ways the
yeah,
body of Christ. That's what St. Paul said. I believe that.
yeah. And
But
there's so many hospitals that are geared around medicine, like
right,
the hospitals here in North Texas. We have Baptist hospitals, we have Methodist, uh, Seventh Day Adventist. Like we have different beliefs,
right,
but they are
right,
all the system. And we have Catholic too, but that's in South Texas more. But they
right.
have their model is built on compassion shown by Christ to the people.
Yes, yes. Well, now this is just me, but I believe compassion is the highest form of medicine. It is no substitute for pharmaceuticals. I wouldn't even begin to suggest that, but I do believe the body is energized by love. I mean,
Yes, it is.
there was a famous book written in Texas, two doctors in Texas. Their name is Symington, and they wrote a book called Getting Well Again. And I sent it to numerous people. They took patients, the Symingtons did in Texas, that were given up on by traditional medicine. Not just cancer, but a lot of it was. And so they were being sent off, there's nothing more we can do. You're terminal, and, they'd be getting ready for hospice care. Well, you know, the Symingtons took them in and did all kinds of other work with them that had to do with uh, how do they call it? It had to do with being able to visualization. You've probably heard of that. Visualization,
Yes.
where you see within your mind the T cells going to work against the cancer cells.
Oh, I heard about that when I was in college.
Yes,
They talked about
yes,
teaching patients to see their T cells to ward off things.
exactly. That's what they did. Not just that, but there were other things. And
That's so
look,
cool.
it is, and they got well. I'm not saying everyone, but they got well. And the idea is that we doctors and nurses have long known about the will to live, and they also know about people who have a death wish. And I'll tell you a little story, true story that I heard. There was a tribe in Africa where they raised the members of the tribe to believe that there's no life outside the tribe. You have to be in the tribe. If you don't, you'll die. Well, if you did something bad enough, you were excommunicated from the tribe. And sure enough, this happened. This young man, fit, healthy, in his probably 20s or 30s, had done something, and he was excommunicated from the tribe. And within 2 days, he dropped dead. Now, you and I wouldn't drop dead, but he believed so
No.
strongly that he would that he did die. That's the power of belief. We should
Well,
never,
that could be a
ever,
broken heart too. Like it
well,
could have been he died from sadness.
it could be, but many people
When I
who,
get rejected, I feel sad,
oh yeah, yeah,
but
but
not I don't die
people,
from it.
no, no, well, we wouldn't. But if were raised in a certain way to believe a certain thing, it's amazing the power of the mind. We
Right.
talk, yeah, and we talk a lot about that. What else? I was going to tell you something else. India is such a different culture than America. In India, if you're pulling a rickshaw, you know what a rickshaw is, right? That little
Yes.
buggy that somebody sits on, and you earn a living by being the human animal, so to speak, moving that buggy from place to place, and you get people around like a human taxi. Rickshaw drivers
Yes.
have done that. The life expectancy of a rickshaw driver in India is around 5 years. Now, the reason they
They're
don't
only
live
5
long,
years old.
no, 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 no. When they begin that work as adults, they usually, the average life expectancy is around 5 years. The reason for that short life expectancy is because of their contact with the street. They usually pick up and die of TB, tuberculosis. So a rickshaw driver knows in their life that it will be a short one. Now, that doesn't mean every single rickshaw driver will die within 5 years, but many of them do. It's the cost of the type of work they do. We have jobs that are dangerous as well. But all I'm saying is, in different parts of the world, people are of a vital age. They might be, well, I'm old, but they might be 30, 20, and they're dying of a disease that in their nation they do not have the health care available to them, or they do not have the resources to take advantage of, and they will die. And I think many of the people that she picked up off the streets were certainly victims of a culture that just did not have an. India is a larger, they have more people in India than China now. India has surpassed China for the highest population of any country on earth, you know. So what a challenge. We're trying to figure things out with what, 300 million? they have over 1 billion people. And
Yeah,
so I,
they seem like they have a lot of people though, because they don't, they, well, okay, never mind. Go ahead. Sorry.
oh no, that's fine. I just it's the world is a big diverse place, and I know Mother Teresa chose to be of service in an area which we would probably consider the poorest of the poor. Black Eagle put filth in on the street and so on. They're making advancements. China has done tremendous. India is lagging behind. But at the same time, what do we do in the interim before we help people? I mean, Africa the same way. When we withdrew funds, I think you were talking about this, if I remember right, about from U.S. aid, people in Africa who needed that aid. Do you recall that? Who were being given medicine
Yeah, I
that
wrote about that in high school. Yeah.
yes, yes. And then when that funds were withdrawn in the present administration, real human beings died because of it. And so there might be just a ministry of people who cannot provide that medicine, but they will pick them up off the street. There are people who, that old story of the river and the bodies floating down the river, Carrie, and most people will fish them out of the river, uh, find the family, offer them consolation, give them a burial, a respectful human burial. But very few people will swim upstream to find out why these people are dying. And it's much more popular for people to say, I will be involved in social services, in social charity, but I don't know the first thing about social justice. And that's for the few. That's what Jesus did. He did both, really. But I think when you try to aim at the system that is allowing people to be in such a vulnerable position, we talk about peacemaking. How do you have peace when we live in a world that's so fractured and so broken? And some people have to offer consolation. Other people have to work in Congress. Other people have to work in politics and to work real hard. The guy in Texas that I so admire is James Tallarico, one of again, another Texan who is doing,
Yes.
you know who he is, right? You've heard of him.
Yeah, Evelyn told me about him and I looked him up.
Yeah, he's absolutely amazing. I've sent him emails
He
back
seems
and
like a
forth.
nice guy. I like
I
Beto O'Rourke too. I don't know why he got
yeah,
out of favor,
yeah,
but I really like him.
yeah, yeah.
She reminds me a lot of JFK.
Yeah, he does in a way, doesn't he? That's true. That's true. Usually, by the time people reach a position in politics where they can be influential, they have become themselves servants of special interests. And I hope Tallarico, and I pray Tallarico never does that. He is fully aware of that. And
That's how
we're
Beto tried to run, though, was not having any of his campaign paid for
right.
by PACs, but it's not almost feasible when you're running against people that have millions of dollars available to them, if not more. And it's just a business. It's not about people being represented, in my opinion. Because if we were just to pick people that represent us, it wouldn't be billionaires. It would be
No,
normal
no,
people.
that's right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Any great, magnificent change never comes from the top. It comes from the bottom, from the people. And I
Yes.
think, and he knows that very well. And I think that's where we need to begin grassroots work. I think May Day the other day was another example. The No Kings Day. We have people have to rally. That's the value and strength that we had in unions beginning way back in the 30s and 40s. So unionization of the people was what leveled the playing field and gave us a fair chance. That's all people need.
Yes. Is he running for president or is he just.
Oh, Tallarico? Yeah.
Yes.
No, I think he's running for Senate, I believe. And
First.
I don't know which district what number it is in Texas, but I believe he is running for Senate. Maybe I'm
I
wrong,
thought it
but I
was
think
from
he is.
South Texas.
Is he? Is that
I
what
don't.
district? Okay.
I don't remember. I'd have to look it up. I don't know. Can I
Uh,
look it up on here without it losing my call?
I think so, or yeah, I can. I'll look it up too. I'm curious. I've sent him emails. I've looked him up online, but I can't. I don't remember. Let's see if I can find his. Okay, James Tallarico. 36 years of age. Let's see if we can find U.S. Senate, 2026 U.S. Senate election in Texas. Um, what district is he? I thought he was near Austin, but I'm probably wrong. Let's see. Okay, here's his website. Um, Boy, he's got a nice website. Uh, they don't tell you right off. This is really. He's in. Well, it says Austin, P.O. Box in Austin. Let me just put in what district.
So what is Austin? That's not Travis County, is it?
Oh, you got me there. I could check that. Let's see, James Tallarico. Which district? 50, Northeast Austin. And then Pflugerville. Have you ever heard of that?
Yes.
Okay, Northeast Austin, Pflugerville. That's what he's serving currently. He represented. Oh, he did represent District 52, Round Rock, for 5 years before that. 50, they say, is a blue district. So that's where he's operating from.
Okay.
Yeah. I have never been to Texas. One of these days, I'd like to see my friend in San Antonio. But
San Antonio is so wonderful.
you like it? You've been there.
Yes. It's very spiritually happy, and
Oh.
not the Houston area. Houston is dark and depressing and evil. But San Antonio is very happy and
Oh.
positive. You can feel God there, in my opinion. Not as much as Colorado, but that's just because I love the mountains. But it's very happy. If you go there, like, I don't know if you can feel happiness, but I can feel happiness coming up from the ground. I can't really
Oh,
describe
really?
it, but you can feel, yeah, you can feel positive energy. I don't know.
It's
Some
funny
people
you're.
say it's because, sorry?
Oh no, it's funny you're saying that because that was something they talked about. This oncologist was talking about that as well. That you certain parts of the Pacific Northwest where we have a lot of mountains, and they've said this is not a bad place as well. Certain places are more detrimental to what I think the way you're describing it. That's really interesting to hear you say that.
Places are detrimental to what? In the Northwest?
No, no, Northwest is a bit like what you were describing in Colorado, and maybe because we're it's so beautiful here in the mountains and in the water and everything. But there are
Yes.
other places where they don't feel that sense of the spirit quite so readily.
Yes, that would be Houston. Just go
Houston,
there.
okay.
It's very dark. It feels heavy. The atmosphere is heavy.
Mm.
Not just the humidity in Texas. The humidity and the heat can make anyone feel oppressed. It's not
Uh,
necessarily spiritual, but Houston just has a dark energy around it, and you can feel it. I can feel it as I get closer to it. Well, I don't go there anymore, but when I went there, you could just feel like this negative energy coming down. It's like
mhm.
it feels, I don't know how to describe it, but when you go to places like San Antonio, you feel energy coming up from the earth as if it's going upwards, as if it's a up upward motion towards heaven. I can't really describe it, but
Right, right.
that's it.
No,
When I
that's
went to
a good
Colorado,
description.
so- sorry,
No, that's a good description. Please, I like it.
okay, the airport in Denver where I went is bad. And then as you go up the highway, up the mountains, well, I don't know. I went to Summit County, so I don't know exactly. But as you go up, you can feel God more and more. I could feel God more and more. And I could tell that it was very spiritually close to God. And then this last year, I looked up why did I feel closer to God in the mountains, and it said something like they may hold more energy that's positive or something like that. I don't know if that's
Ah,
true.
okay. Yeah, I don't either, but I do know that uh, you know, God's spirit permeates the universe. That's a firmly held belief of my own, and that there are places that are just so, awe-inspiring. Why wouldn't they elicit that sort of human response? That we sense something. The beauty alone. I grew up
Yes,
in
that's how I felt when
Nebraska.
I went up the. Sorry.
Well, I was just say I grew up in Nebraska, and there were oceans of cornfields. That's what we had, cornfields. And when I came out west across the Rockies, I'll never forget. It's just I was oohing and eyeing how beautiful it really was,
Yes.
and it is
Yes,
inspiring.
whenever we came out of Denver, it was so beautiful. There were creeks and little brooks running down towards the highway. There were miniature waterfalls everywhere. It was just unbelievable. It looked like a movie or a fantasy or something. It was just so beautiful, and there was wildlife everywhere, like just right there by the road. It wasn't even like, in Texas, if wildlife gets near our highways, they die. But there, they're just like living in the woods and stuff. But the woods run up right against the roads because the roads go through the mountains. So it was just unbelievable. And I wish I could go back there. I wish I could live there, but it's way too expensive. And also, I don't ski, so I don't even want to be there during the winter that much. Like, I'd like to be there, but to
Right.
to live there is very expensive, and it's because people go there to ski, which I don't care about skiing. I just want to be in the mountain.
Exactly.
And
Well,
maybe
I
other
mean,
mountains are just as good, but I've only been to that one, and that's where I want to stay.
right.
Well,
Well,
we went to Mount Edna.
oh, did you? Okay. You still there? Whoops. Carrie, did I lose
Yes,
you?
sorry, my phone went dark.
Oh, no, no problem.
Oh,
Yeah. Well, I'll just say this: every human being is unique. And in our uniqueness, we don't fall in love and marry every person we meet, right? We have to find the right person. And sometimes we find the right mountain range. Sometimes we find the right waterfall. We find the right ocean scenery or whatever it may be, you
listen,
know.
can we put?
Oh, sorry. Are you still there?
I'm here. I'm sorry. I'll be right back. I gotta talk
Okay.
to my son real quick. He just came in. I'm sorry.
No problem. Take your time.
That's okay. Look, can you
Good
take
night,
this?
Angela.
Can you lay this over a chair? I want to I need to put these jeans in the washer for tomorrow because I have that. Is that okay?
My apology. I didn't pay close attention to side chat, and it's really hard to do, but no excuses. So I've missed a lot. I'll go back and look through the stream later at your comments, and I appreciate them. I'm glad that you were here.
I can't see the chat, so I wasn't ignoring anyone. I see like a blue
Oh,
screen,
yeah, there
but I
isn't
might
a
have joined it
lot.
wrong.
Oh no, I'm sure you did fine. There isn't a lot of people here right now. It looks like four viewers, so we're kind of thinning down here. But this isn't everyone's cup of tea, and I understand that. Um, you have had brushes with death. I've had one or two close calls. I think that when those moments have happened, it's an awakening, for lack of a better word. And the sacredness and preciousness of life itself, it just conversations like this, I can't. And as I get to, they the medical community calls it sitting in God's eternal waiting room at my age, right, or circling the drain. you know, uh, I'm older, and so yeah, I kind of think about the final end of the human person and coming down the home stretch. So
Aren't you just in your 70s though?
yeah, I'm in my 30s. Yeah, no, I'm
No,
in my
but I mean, I think you've shared
yeah.
before that you're in your 70s, but you could still have like 20, 30 more years.
Yeah, if the one who divided the Red Sea, if he wants to perform another miracle, yes, that could happen. I don't know. I have an aneurysm. I've got some issues with my health, so I'm, but I'm okay. I'm not at my age. I've heard a doctor once say, when I get to my 70s, I'm not going to do chemo or radiation. I'm just my body's saying to me, the shelf life is just so long. But if I were younger, it's a whole different situation. Like you are, you're young, and my nephew who's battling brain cancer is young. So we want to be able
Sorry.
to. Yeah, I know. It was just, so much is contingent upon, and I've lived a good life, a long life. I've traveled all over and studied everywhere, and I'm really happy to say that, if tonight's the night, I'm ready. I really am. So,
So is that what happens when you have an aneurysm? Do you like never know when it might break or something? Is that what
well,
you mean?
mine is an aortic aneurysm in the heart, and it's in a spot where if it's like you see a tire that is bulging out, it's just wearing out, it could blow out, right? Well, the heart, the major vessel, the aortic area, has that. Well, I don't even know why it happened. To be perfectly honest, I don't know how it happened. Um, but a lot of times, the widowmaker. Some people say, "Well, we didn't know. We didn't know he had a heart condition," and a lot of people don't. I learned about my heart when um, I went in and had a wisdom tooth removed, Carrie, a wisdom tooth, and they should have given me antibiotics, and they didn't. And that surgery, well, I wasn't put under, but anyway, when they pulled the wisdom tooth, I got an infection because of that, and it went to my heart. And so I had these things done, and they were able to tell me that I had this aneurysm. And at the time, it was like 3.4 or 3.2 or whatever it was, and too small to really operate on. But that was like 20, 25 years ago. So, you
Oh,
can,
wow.
well, yeah, and they measure it. So there's a certain amount of growth anticipated every year. An aneurysm doesn't get better usually; it get worse. So I figure I'm, in that area where, you should have surgery, or you might have the big one. But I thought about it. I thought to myself, honestly, and I don't have a death wish, and I'm not being morbid, but I really mean this. I'm ready. I'm good with that, with my life. And um, if it happens, it'll be sudden, catastrophic. It'll be a big blowout, bleed out in my heart, and I'll just lose consciousness and I won't wake up. And that'll be it. And you know what? I can't think of a better way to go. It's kind of like dying in your sleep. You just sort of
Yeah.
faint and you won't wake up, and that's it. I mean, I don't look at that as if I was younger, I would. But at my age, I'm really thinking, this is my poor mother died when I was 7, and she had breast cancer, and it spread and metastasized. She
Oh, I'm
suffered for
sorry.
well, I appreciate that, but she suffered a lot. Why would we want to die such a horrific death if there's anything you can do about it? And people want to live generally, but there comes a
Yeah.
time in your life where some people, our blessed Lord lived to be what, 33. I'm already double his age. I'm 76. I feel pretty
Yeah.
fortunate. That musician that died, Randy Meisner, he and I are close. I think he maybe was 1 year older than me. You know, I've lived a good life. I'm feeling pretty good about that. There aren't many people though are not ready, and God bless them. That's perfectly fine. I think we get ready as we introduce ourselves to the Holy Spirit, and I think that the relationship that we need to have is that relationship, and it prepares us
With ourselves?
with the Spirit that lives within us, the Holy
Oh,
Spirit.
okay. Yeah.
Yeah, St. John says that over and over again that God is indwelling. He's the theme indwelling in John's Gospel. And that's the indwelling Holy Spirit, which is the Spirit of Jesus. And I believe that is what he said, I won't leave you orphans. I'll come back in the Holy Spirit. I would say people say, "Oh, he's returning. He's returning. He's coming back." And my response is, "He never left. He never left.
Yeah.
He's still
Yeah, they're
here."
wanting him to come back as a second physical coming, but the thing is,
Yeah,
he's
yeah,
already here. We just don't know that.
absolutely.
People that look for the second coming are denying themselves of the experience of him being present right now, in my opinion. But there's no
That
point trying to tell them that.
yes, absolutely, and that's the great tragedy of it all. This Anthony DeMello, this priest psychologist that I am such a student of, he said that many people will live their whole life. He says we're born asleep, we go to school in our sleep, we go to work in our sleep, we get married in our sleep, we breed children in our sleep, and we eventually die in our sleep, never fully awakening, Carrie, to what you just said, to the presence of God in their life, and that's sad.
It is.
When he's been there the whole time. We have to. The whole process is subtraction. When I was a kid, I learned addition, subtraction, multiplication. Right? We all did. This is a process of subtraction. In order to find God, you don't have to look. He's already there. You have to subtract, remove things that are obstacles in the way of seeing what is already there and has been there the whole time.
That's a good point.
Well,
It's hard to do though. Like
well,
our
yeah,
earth right now, like encourages
yeah,
us to be increasingly dependent on
mm,
things that they've invented, to keep us busy. So it's hard to. I mean, it's not hard, but it takes like some concerted thought to withdraw and be peaceful, I guess.
right, right, exactly. Well, life is a school and it's a journey, and
Yeah.
I can't tell you whether we come back more than once, um, but I think I'm very open to things that I was never open to before. We all come
I
from
feel
a
like we do, but I don't think it's in the Bible. Like I'm not saying it because I
no,
believe it
no, right, right.
biblically, but my children gave me two of my children remembered their past lives until they were about 5 and then they couldn't
Oh,
remember anymore. So they
really?
would talk to
Wow.
me about, yeah, one of them told me, he's like, I love you, but I love my main mom or something in heaven. And he
The
was
main
like,
mom.
yeah, he was like kind of resentful towards me because he's like, you're nice and all, but I just want you to know I have another mother that is my real mom or something. And I was like, well,
Yeah,
who am I? But it was because he remembered her and his little
sure.
sister.
Yeah,
And I don't think he was lying. I don't think he was making it up.
no.
And so for me, that's why I believe that there could.
Well, Carrie, that's probably
Yeah.
uh,
Okay,
uh,
sorry.
well, no, thank you for sharing that. It's so beautiful. His, if he had a prior life, he had a life, I'm going to assume, of many years with his mother. He'd only had you for 4 or 5 years.
Well, he died as a child in a tornado, he
Oh,
said. He said that he and his mom and
oh,
his
oh,
sister were in a car and a
oh,
tornado came and he said
okay.
that they died. And so for years he would sit at the window if there was any clouds and he would just be so scared of a storm. Like it was such a big deal when he was growing up. And
Yeah,
I don't know if it was because like he told me that he had died from it or what, but yeah, his mom, he definitely had her longer than me because at the time he was like 4, so I think he was obviously older than that when he passed
right,
away because he was able to talk about it, but it was just very it was just like a very specific memory. And my
right.
oldest son, he also talked about his previous life and that he talked about a car he'd had and stuff, but he didn't say anything mean to me about me not being his main mother
I'm sorry for
or
laughing, but
whatever
that
he
is kind of
said.
funny. Yeah.
he
Well,
was rejecting me.
Douglas MacArthur, famous for talking about prior lives and others as well, not a new idea at all. In my Catholic, Roman Catholic tradition, that's not something that is officially in a catechism and believed in. But you know what?
Right.
The Bible itself has human fingerprints all over it, and the humans who are involved in the books that were written down And you can see that humanity, St. Paul writes different than Peter and James and others who contributed. The writing styles, you can tell the humanity is is different. So
Yeah.
you have two things going on. You have humanity participating, and you have divinity participating in the final product of what we call sacred scripture. And in the humanity, the one we have to worry about because humans get things wrong. We don't always get. In the Old Testament, they condoned slavery. We don't condone that. In the Old Testament, they condoned parents, the husband owning his wife. We don't condone that today. A lot of people go back and they try to revisit and what would you call it, renegotiate with the Bible. So that they're too afraid to say that, the Bible's humanity. Jesus came along and said, you were told this before by Moses, but now I tell you, you were told an eye for an eye, and I tell you, love your enemy. You were told, you can divorce your wife. I say, if a man even looks on another woman with lust, you've committed adultery. And on and on. Jesus is saying, yeah, you knew that back then, but I'll tell you something you didn't know. And this fills full the Old Testament. And so from that, we know that Scripture is unfinished. We have our human limitations and ability to understand it, much less to be authors in writing it. Every book
Yes.
in Scripture, I believe, was inspired, but inspired people get things wrong. When I had my biggest faith core experience when I was a young person, I immediately went into the seminary. And about a couple of years later, I left because I was inspired to be a priest. But what happened to me in my conversion was I interpreted it wrongly. I thought I was being called to be a priest. No, I was being called to be a child of God. So any human that's inspired to write may be inspired, but they might not. There's no guarantee we're getting it all right. That's our humanity that's involved.
Yeah.
So, and that I can live with that. I believe that God doesn't make mistakes, but we humans do. And so, we have slavery being condoned in the Old Testament clearly, and in the New Testament, we have a problem with slavery. So, yeah, and there's more issues than just that. But I just think it's God trusts us so much that He lets us understand as much as we're able to. And as time unfolds, like in the fullness of time, Jesus broke through human history and lived among us. And then we had another jolt of inspiration, which He brought. And we're still trying to figure out what Jesus was all about. Humbly, we're
Yes.
still trying to understand Him. And that's okay too, you know.
Yeah, agreed.
I absolutely have thoroughly enjoyed you and Janie. And side chat, I need to apologize to Janie left a comment about 10 minutes ago about when I was talking about dental care and all of that, and I failed to see it. So my apology from the bottom of my heart, missing all of that. Um, it's a little after 7 here in Seattle, and at my age, I'm usually good for an hour and a half. I've gone 3.
Okay. Thank you
So
for having me up. I enjoyed talking to you.
yeah, I have too. It's been wonderful, and I hope we'll
I'm
do it
sorry I couldn't be here
again.
sooner.
What's
Yes.
that? Oh, okay.
I said I'm sorry I couldn't be here sooner.
Oh no, no, that's okay. That's okay. There was some good stuff at the beginning. Check it out if you get a chance.
Okay.
Um,
I
yeah,
will.
it's just that when Janie came up, everything kind of came to a screeching halt. It got a little bit tiring and depressing and dark, and then
With
eventually,
Janie up here?
no, yeah, I'm kidding. Janie is truly she she is a bright light. She is a
She
bright
is.
light.
I love her so much. She's
Yeah,
so kind and funny and nice, and she's
she
very
is.
nurturing. Like she's nurturing, but not like sappy. Like it's a hard combination, you know?
That's right. That's right. She really is all of those things. And I'm better
Yeah.
for a human being for knowing Janie and yourself as well, and others that have been
Thank you,
teachers.
Stellar. Same.
Yeah, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. Well, I hope you have a great evening. Is there anything else you wanted to
Thank
say
you.
before we close out?
No.
Okay.
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Me too. I'm going to close with Peace Train by Cat Stevens. So,
Okay,
and
how
if
do
you
I
need,
exit? Do I just hit the red phone?
yes, I believe that's how you do it. Yes.
Okay, all right.
All
I'll be
right.
in the chat. Thank you. Okay, bye.
Okay. Bye bye.
Now I've been happy lately, thinking about good things to come. And I believe it could be something good has begun.
Oh, I've been smiling lately, dreaming about the world as one. And I believe it could be someday it's gonna come.
Cause I'm on the edge of darkness, there rides the peace train. Oh, peace train, me take this country, come take me home again.
Now I've been smiling lately, thinking about the good things to come. And I believe it could be something good has begun.
Peace train sounding louder, ride on the peace train. Ooh-ah, ee-ah, ooh-ah. Peace train, holy roller, everyone jump upon the peace train. Ooh-ah, ee-ah, ooh-ah.
Rendin chomchima arkidam patate ilade mangaron unade kadi fadima joni eto manjola ar abbo dam 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 bunam dam wadadima unade fadima joni joni unto bongola.
Peace train sounding loud, glide on the peace train. Ooh-ah, ee-ah, ooh-ah.
When it dam balawaya mijade oduna wajari hatida galengan gutuno dene duna.
Oh, I've been crying lately, thinking about the world as it is. Why must we go on hating? Why can't we live in bliss? Peace train sounding louder, glide on the peace train.
Ooh-ah, ee-ah, ooh-ah.
Come on, peace train. Peace train,
Holy roller, everyone jump upon the peace train. Ooh-ah, ee-ah, ooh-ah.
come on, come on, come on.
Come on and ride
Train sounding loud,
on the peace train.
on the peace train.
On the peace train.
Ooh-ah, ee-ah, ooh-ah.
Come on, come on, come on. Let's come on, peace train.
Come on, come on, come on. Peace train.
Come on, join me. I'm jumping on the peace train.
Come on, peace train.